This conference will now be recorded.
Hey, welcome everyone. This is December 9th, 2020, and it's the Clatsop County work session, 5 p.m. and it's 5:01. Work sessions are an opportunity for board members to discuss issues informally with staff and invited guests. The board encourages members of the public to attend work sessions and to listen to discussions, but there's generally no opportunity for public comment. Members of the public wishing to address the board are welcome to do so during the board's regularly scheduled meetings. So first we'll have about 5 minutes of board communication, which is we kind of say hello to each other. So let's start with Commissioner Nebeker tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you. Enjoyed this beautiful day. Oh, is there echo?
I do. Is that me?
Okay, I guess it's all right. No, I'm doing fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nebeker? I'm sorry, Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you. I have a poem to read from Olivia Butler later. My daughter sent it. It's my contribution to the arts and culture of this last meeting in y'all's honor.
Oh, well, thank you. I always approve of poetry, so excellent. Commissioner Webb?
Here. Are you looking for a report?
No, I'm just looking for a howdy.
Okay, weren't we blessed today with a gorgeous day? The weather guys told me it was supposed to rain today, so Lukey and I were really excited. But could I ask a favor? I don't know if Teresa, I wonder, is it possible for us to like make our picture smaller so we can see everybody on the call, or no? That's too much.
I think you can go up to, I believe you can have like gallery view or speaker view.
Oh, up in the, okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And Commissioner Quayla, would you like to say hello?
Yes, hi. I just got out of another meeting, so apologize for joining late.
No problem. We understand. This is a Zoom meeting time. You can get in a lot more meetings because of Zoom, but that doesn't make it easier in some ways. All right. Thank you so much. So let's discuss, let's go on to the next. For myself, I just want to say hello, and I'm grateful that I got out and got a walk on this beautiful day today. So the next thing on the agenda is discussing the formal agenda, and that's meaning the agenda for our 6 o'clock meeting. Does anybody have any comments, the commissioners that would like to make any comments about today's agenda? Okay, that's great. Hearing none. We will assume that everyone is okay with the agenda. Let's move on now to topics. Our topics tonight are public health, homeless liaison funding, to tsunami legislation, and the multi-jurisdiction national hazards mitigation plan. So we have a number of things on our work session. Let's get started with public health. Is Dr. McNichol here to give us a report?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you. This is Mike McNichol. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see here. Right now, as of this moment, we have 440 cases. We had 13 in the last 24 hours. Our case rates per 100,000 is about 76.2. So we're still away from, we're about 3 to 8 cases away from going to the extreme risk category. So we're keeping our fingers crossed that we don't cross that threshold. We have a 4.3% cumulative positive test rate, which is pretty high. And we've had 2 fatalities, unfortunately. We have 4 COVID admits and 2 COVID folks in ICU right now. The Region 1 medical resources, that's Multnomah, Washington, Clackamas, Columbia, Clatsop, and Tillamook counties, we're at 90.6% 88.8% of non-ICU beds are utilized, and ICU beds were at 83%. So, it's getting close, but we're still hanging in there. Importantly, we've been doing some work with CMH, and we want to thank them for their help. They provided us with 2,000 more Binax Now tests today, so we have a lot more in our reserve. We've also started, as of next week, we're going to have 3 days a week testing. We'll be able to do 60 people a day on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. We also have hired a cadre of about 10 volunteers, volunteer, whatever. They're going to volunteer for us to help us with our contact tracing when it comes needed. And 3 of those folks are actually public health nurses who have retired, so we can actually have them help us with the case investigations as they come up. So if we do have a positive case, those are the folks who will do, the public health nurses will do those case investigations because they have the skills to do so. On the vaccination front, we did get notification that Oregon will get just over 100,000 doses. Those are the ones that are the ultra cold. We probably won't see very many of those, if any, here on the coast. That'll only, with 2 doses apiece, that's only 50,000 frontline workers or healthcare workers of the 300,000 just in the Tri-County area. So you can see that we're up against numbers, but we should be able to get our share of the Moderna product, which is going to be the phase 1B approach, which is not ultra cold, and we'll be able to take those, and CMH and Providence will probably be the ones to get those to help us with the healthcare workers and other frontline workers. We won't see the products for the general people sometime after February. We should be able to get everyone who wants a vaccine done before June, hopefully. So I can take any questions if you have any.
Dr. McNichol, one thing I guess I'm just going to, when I watch the news, we see these large spikes in numbers, but I think it's important, and I just wanted to ask what you thought about this. I think you agree that even though we see these scary numbers on the news, it's still important to follow all the guidelines and wearing the mask and washing your hands and keeping distance. So that's just going to continue to be really important until we all are vaccinated and we've gotten through this pandemic. When you say that it's still important that we keep that path going.
Yeah, that's absolutely essential. As you can see, from the spike we had after the Halloween party that occurred here, that was a huge spike. That's tailed off now. I think we're going to start seeing the Thanksgiving vacations and get-togethers now. We're starting to see a rise from that. And if we're going to have congregate settings and people don't follow social distancing and isolation and no mask wearing and no sanitation, those numbers are just going to continue until we actually reach herd immunity, which wouldn't happen until next June if we even get to there. And then you can imagine the carnage that'll occur if we don't get there, and all the folks who are dying, that number is just going to get huge. And that's what we're trying to avoid, is the folks who are the most at risk, immune compromised, elderly, those kind of folks. And if we don't do that, those are the folks who are going to suffer the most. So, the most important things again are let's not do congregate settings. Try to self-isolate and quarantine as much as you can. Practice good sanitation and wear a mask. Mask wearing has proven to be effective. So, again, we're trying to hit those messages as much as possible on our overall press releases, and hopefully, when people see these scary numbers, that they'll start to believe it.
Well, and I think also we just have to keep hanging in there. That this will come to an end, but we just have to keep hanging in there for the next couple of months or so or more. But this will come to an end. So I see. Thank you so much, Dr. McNichol. I see Commissioner Thompson's hand up, and also Commissioner Webb. Go ahead, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. McNichol, I just spoke with Kevin Leahy, who put it in context for me. He said now our daily death rate is equal to what happened at Pearl Harbor. And that, I hope that shocks people into more awareness and more compliance with best practices, the distancing, the masking, the hygiene, all of that. Thanks for your good work.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson.
That's
Commissioner Webb?
That was a sobering statistic, by the way.
One of the things that has struck me as I read the daily bad news is the age distribution of people now. And I wish someone would make an Excel spreadsheet into a chart that would talk about the number of people within each age group. Because if you look at those, it's very, very clear that the age of people who are catching the virus now is much lower than we've been looking at. And I'd love to see somebody, our PIO or somebody talk about that. And it should be easy. I mean, the data is right there. So, but the age distribution is just phenomenal. I mean, we're getting almost every time we have one of these big, long lists, there are kids under 10 on it. And,
Wow.
to me, and the district, I mean, I think like today we had like 13 new ones, and I think there were only 1 or 2 who were over 60. And so I think we should start talking about that. That it isn't just old bears, us.
No, it's not. Anybody can get COVID. There's no age requirement to get it. The virus doesn't care. The issue is that if you 0 to 9, the odds of you actually having a bad outcome are lower. So it seems to me that the folks who are listening are the ones who are most at risk. So maybe that's a bright light there, that the ones who are most at risk are listening and aren't doing those things that cause them to be at risk. I don't know. So yeah, we can. I can work with Tom, and we could put something like that together. Sure.
Well, because the issue is that some of those older people might be catching it from their 5-year-old grandson.
Right. Right.
So that's
right.
To me, that's the issue. It's the it's the passing it on issue.
Right.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Quayle, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just would echo, I think the messaging is so important moving forward. I really want to thank County Health for increasing the testing at the County Health site. I think that the community testing is so important. We have a huge demand at the hospital alone here. We had 81 people get tested yesterday. I know the County Health site had 60 today. Huge demand for getting tests. And I appreciate their willingness to engage volunteers and to ramp up. The more testing, it creates a tremendous workload, I know, for administrative work, and then all the contact tracing that has to take place. I know that's a lot for County Health to take on, but I appreciate their efforts very much. I also appreciate that they've been engaged in the vaccination planning. We're meeting weekly. All the hospitals and County Health. Vincent Arts was on the call today, as well as Jill Quackenbush. As this rolls out, that messaging has to be important too, to let the public know exactly who's qualifying for this phase 1A, phase 1B, as we go each step along the way, when members of the community are going to be receiving their vaccinations is going to be so important. And it's coming along. We're getting the pictures coming into focus, and as weeks go on, I think within the next 10 days, we'll have a much better picture of when we're going to be receiving vaccines here in Clatsop County.
Absolutely.
That all sounds very good. Thank you so much. And thank you, Dr. McNichol, for being here. We need to move on to the next topic. But I know that we all appreciate all the hard work that you and your staff are doing. So thank you so much.
Sure. And if you ever have any questions, feel free to email me. But thank you.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on now to the homeless design funding to the Clatsop Community Action. This is on page 4 of your agenda, and may we have the staff report on that?
Hi, Commissioners. So during the 2021 budget cycle, I'm going to ask people who are not muted if you could just mute yourselves, because I'm getting a lot of feedback. So in the 2021 budget cycle, we had, sorry, I'm going to mute you. Oh, okay. So So during the 2021 budget cycle, we budgeted $50,000 to pass through to Class Up Community Action to provide a homeless liaison position countywide. This is something that came about through the homelessness task force that the city of Astoria has been hosting. And there was a need seen throughout the county for somebody to be able to provide these services to help make these connections. If you'll remember, there was a gentleman who came from the city of Gresham, Kevin Darnus, I think his name was, and he came and did a presentation, and from there, we then kind of evaluated a work group of us that included myself, folks from Helping Hands, folks from Class Up Community Action, folks from the hospitals, as well as the city of Astoria. And we kind of identified what Class Up County would need for somebody in that position. And the Class Up Community Action created the job description that is in your packet. And they are looking to start advertising for that position. And so they are now requesting that those funds be passed through to them. They also have secured a grant that will also help fund this position as well. And ideally, we know that there's more work in the county than one position can handle, but we're going to get started and then see how this position grows and where there might be additional needs. And so we're going to be asking during the regular board meeting for the board to approve this contract with Class Up Community Action.
Monica, my understanding when I talked to Viviana about this position is that it's kind of like a parallel to the Veterans Services Officer, that it'll be a boots on the ground kind of, I guess that's the wrong metaphor used, but it'll be somebody that'll be working directly with the folks that are unsheltered. Is that correct?
That is correct. They'll be working with the folks that are out there needing assistance, whether they're currently homeless or whether they're on the edge of homelessness, and making sure that they're getting connected with the services. This person will also be working coordinated with organizations such as the county, such as the hospitals, such as law enforcement agencies, to try and make sure that we're all working together to help these individuals, because we're not looking at taking the enforcement approach. We're looking at taking the social services approach.
Thank you. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would be very interested in data by commissioner district of unmet need. And if that's unrealistic, please let me know. But to the extent that we can track what's happening in our district in regard to these homeless issues, I think it's going to be very important. You know that Councilor Montero from the city of Seaside is also working on this. I hope that all of that's being coordinated, but it's such a huge problem. Hooray for getting started, but tracking data so we can respond specifically, I think will be helpful going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. So any other questions before we move on to the other two items on the work session? Okay, very good. So the next one on the list is tsunami legislation. We have about 15 minutes scheduled for this. This is on page 12 of your agenda. And may we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair Sullivan. Let me get the right screen showing here. There we go. Can everyone see that? All right. Thank you. Tonight I'll be presenting on two topics. The first has to do with tsunami legislation that we'll be seeing in the 20.
So this is Tiffany Brown. She's our emergency manager giving this presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Tiffany, I just wanted to tell you, we can see both your screens.
Oh, you can? Okay. Thank you. Let me fix that. So that should be better.
There, that's right. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. So tonight, I'll be making a brief presentation on anticipated legislation in 2021 regarding the tsunami inundation zone. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Tiffany Brown. I'm the County Emergency Manager, and I am aware and delighted that we have signed a contract for legislative assistance during the short and long seasons. We have a lot of topics that come up with respect to our department, and so you might ask yourself, yes, we just hired someone, why are we getting the presentation? The Emergency Management Department has a unique relationship with this proposed bill. I sit on the Oregon Seismic Safety Policy Advisory Commission, also known as the OSPAC, and that body did a lot of legwork with respect to this legislation. And so I spoke to County Manager Don Boone, and we agreed that maybe this would be a good way to introduce it and take some weight off of the legislative assistance that we're looking forward to this year. Okay, let me. So here's a brief overview of what we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to go over a history of tsunami legislation in Oregon, ending with the proposed legislation, the local government role in addition to the state initiative, and then leave time for questions and any feedback. So I will go through this quickly and try to add some talking points. The original history of tsunami legislation in Oregon began back in 1995. It's when we first became aware of the Cascadia subduction zone. And around that time, Tsunami created maps, and legislation was passed and two laws were put into effect that basically prohibited construction of essential facilities in the tsunami inundation zone. Hospitals, police, fire, EMS. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Exceptions could be granted by Tsunami if you needed to build in the zone. You could talk to them about that and they would help you mitigate that risk. But other important structures were not included. Hazardous material sites, schools, and major structures, meaning buildings that housed a lot of people. Over the years, nobody ever challenged it, and Tsunami worked with a number of folks to mitigate. There weren't police or fire stations that were built in the zone, and those that did or provided improvements worked with Tsunami. In 2013, as a result of the Great Japan earthquake, we came out with a whole new set of maps that greatly improved our understanding of our risk to Cascadia subduction zone. Up until that point in 1995, we only had about 1,000 years history of Cascadia activity, but we did studies after the 2011 Great Japan earthquake, and we were able to go back 10,000 years. So if you start to wonder why you've only started hearing so much about this in the last 5 or 6 years, that is the reason. We got better science and we suddenly understood it more. Tsunami created new maps called the TIMS maps, and it wasn't just one tsunami line as had been the case in 1995, but they did modeling for 4 different sizes of events, and they called it the t-shirt sizes. They created planning maps. If you're familiar with the maps, those are the purple and yellow maps. And then they created a set for the public, which are the evacuation brochures, which are those maps that are yellow and orange and show green for high ground. Those maps in 2013 were never adopted by the state of Oregon. They continued to rely on the SB 3079 guidance. That was the only law in effect. In 2018, a subcommittee was put together to review the maps and to possibly adopt them into the state. But instead, the subcommittee decided to update the law altogether. In 2019, during the 2019 legislative session, HB 3309 was passed into law, and it removed the 25-year moratorium that had been put in place since 1995. What's noteworthy is that it did not provide any replacement guidance. There was limited public process and discussion, and so that what are we going to replace it with became the begging question. Earlier in the year, a bipartisan bill was brought in the short legislative session, and it rewrote the ORS and replaced the old law, and it said, and this is what the new law will be about essentially. I'll explain more in a couple of slides. It said, we're going to do away with a moratorium. We're not going to tell people where they can and can't build. We're simply going to say, if you build in the tsunami zone, you must follow certain requirements and build to a certain standard. That standard has to do with the category risk type of buildings 3 and 4. And though there was a walkout and HB 4119 didn't pass, I wanted you to know that it did pass 51-6. What are risk category 3 and 4 buildings, you ask? I'm not going to go through these in great detail. You can read them. If you'd like to learn more about them, you can refer to the 2019 Oregon Structural Specialty Code with the state of Oregon. But generally speaking, these categories, Category 3 represents a substantial hazard to human life in the event of a failure. This has to do with buildings that hold a great number of people, schools, medical facilities without surgical capacity, daycares, and you're starting to see some of those buildings that weren't featured in the original legislation. Risk Category 4 is not dissimilar, little different designation, designated as essential facilities, including but not limited to, and this is where we get into those more classic examples of police, fire, rescue, EOCs, but now we're adding to it water storage facilities and utilities that would support those emergency facilities. We don't, this is a couple months old, but Legislative Concept 1512 is the most recent way I have to describe to you the anticipated legislation in 2021. It essentially mirrors the 4119 that didn't go anywhere earlier this year, with some improvements to language and fine tuning. That was some of the testimony that we took during OSPAC. Representative Gomberg, who is one of the sponsors on this bill, is also a member of the OSPAC. So that's been, that's dovetailed nicely. This bill essentially adopts ASC 716, which are the design standards for tsunami. It leaves a tsunami load chapter to the choice of the local government, whether they adopt or not, to what degree, and it involves the risk category 3 and 4 buildings, allows local government to adopt risk category 2 if they choose. It is a sliding scale. The closer you are to the ocean, the more stringent the requirements become, and this will rely on maps provided by the United States Geological Society. It's not going to rely at this time on the Dagami maps, and I will tell you that Commissioner Thompson will be interested in this. There was a robust discussion and a lot of public testimony about using the USGS maps instead of the Dagami maps. The USGS maps are very standardized around the world. However, they don't provide the acute level of science about Cascadia that the Dagami maps do. The reason is that, one, the maps are made differently. And so the Dagami maps are not made in the way that's needed to rely on ASCE. And so they would need to run their modeling differently. I will let you know that this bill leaves a light on for that endeavor. It will be costly and it will take some time, but it was the consensus of the commission that if we were able to use the data that we had worked so hard to develop, that we should be doing that. So what is the legislation? It is the companion bill to HB 3309. It is the piece that replaces what was removed with the moratorium. It's a new approach to building essential structures in the tsunami zone. And it applies engineering standards instead of location standards, as the old system had done. It's a template for the government, local government, to modify and make changes to that best fit their community. And they are geared toward life safety standards. That means designed to save the lives of occupants in those buildings, as opposed to what it isn't. It is not local land use planning, and it leaves a wide door open for local input. It is not public outreach and education. Few contractors and the building officials will really only be aware of the map that's being used in the process. It's not a moratorium, it's not evacuation guidance, and it doesn't apply to residential or commercial structures. That would be left in the hands of local government. The occupancy standards, here's where there was some discussion at the state level. The buildings that have been built to these standards may not survive for future function after a tsunami. And those who were against this idea and this legislation that provided testimony were largely people that had visited Japan and were looking at remaining public infrastructure that was now not usable, nor was it near the population center because they were building out of the inundation zone. That's a logical argument in many places, but not for some of the locations in our county like Gerhardt, where if they built their fire station out of the inundation zone, it would compromise their ability to make daily calls. So that's the tension that exists when you start to have a conversation about moratoriums. There was a lot of stakeholder input for this legislation. The Coastal Caucus and Dagami started those initial meetings with the tsunami line and the maps in 2019. OSPAC took testimony for the better part of 2 or 3 years. And then a lot of testimony was provided in the course of HB 4119, and we have already received quite a bit from 1512. We had local and state officials. We had representatives from several of the coastal counties, and I think we did a really good job of getting local input. So what is the role of local government in tsunami legislation? I really see this best described as making the concept whole. The state has taken care of building structures. We know that we have a system in place if the legislation passes to manage that piece of tsunami resilience. It doesn't account for any of the social pieces, the land use planning, tsunami overlays that marry the tsunami evacuation maps with community needs. It doesn't address tsunami evacuation wayfinding and assembly area improvements. And so that's what's left to us. And I really want to impress upon you that without both sides, we don't have a whole picture of what that resilience potential can be. And with that, I'm concluding my presentation. Are there any questions or feedback?
Thank you, Tiffany. I see Commissioner Thompson's hand up.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, isn't this swell that you've been part of this and have carried our needs forward? I'll mention that I'm a member of a Business Oregon subcommittee that allocates seismic rehabilitation grant funding. So I want to encourage folks within Clatsop County education and public safety to be alert to those funding opportunities so that they can rehabilitate existing structures. As you pointed out, is to keep people alive so that then after an earthquake, so they can get out the door and head for high ground. Whatever we can do to help complete your efforts, and as you say, make it whole, this is a great step forward for us. So thanks for your efforts. Please keep us involved and active as we go forward.
Thank you, and thank you for desiring to be involved. Commissioner Thompson is referring to, I think, shake your head if I'm wrong, the SGRP, which is the Seismic Grant Resilience Program. And I would say that in 2019, up until 2019, it was buildings in the tsunami inundation zone were not eligible for those projects, but they are now. So that's good news along this front. Any other questions?
Oh,
Commissioner
Yes.
Nebaker?
Thank you. So you mentioned Gerhardt and their fire station. So are you saying that it's possible that where the local city hall fire station rests now is definitely in the inundation zone and it's not seismically safe, but is it possible, since they're having trouble locating property to move to, and you pointed out like if they have to do it outside the inundation zone, it would be difficult for them to meet emergencies. So is there funding? Are you saying there is funding that they could actually build or retrofit where they are now, and that would be possible and that would be allowed?
I think it is one of the options that they've considered. Gerhardt is in a very unique position. When we finished the tsunami inundation maps, according to the small, medium, large, extra large, XXL, they didn't have any high ground within the city UGB. And so they went with the 80% solution and started planning around a lesser event, which is a more likely event, frankly. And so they do have high ground in Gerhardt. The point is that a city can plan for the long-term catastrophic event, which includes getting to high ground, but it ignores the daily emergencies that they face, where call requirements and getting to somebody in a timely fashion means life or death. And so that does end up being the challenge for communities like Gerhardt, Warrenton, and all of those low-lying communities that don't have high ground close by.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to find out is in the place where it is now, if they were to take that structure down and rebuild, is that possible, even though it's in the inundation zone? Could they do that so that it would prevail during earthquake and tsunami?
That certainly is an option for them, yes.
Okay,
wow.
That's really good to know. So yeah, well, I don't know what the building requirements would be, but I know Gerhardt is having a heck of a time being able to find high ground that is within the city. I mean, there's so much objection to the areas that they have identified. The public doesn't want it, so that's why I'm asking. Thank you.
You bet. Anyone else?
Thank you, Commissioner Nebaker. So at this moment, Commissioner Webb, I just want to remind people that that Tiffany will be giving us the fourth topic on the agenda, the multi-jurisdiction natural hazards mitigation plan update 2021. Commissioner Webb, do you have a question concerning the tsunami legislation?
I do.
Okay.
I'd like to know the extent to which we are trying to interface this with our comp plan. This is huge. Thank you so much, Tiffany. This has really opened my eyes to a lot of issues, and I'm so glad you're kind of monitoring the legislation for us. That's fantastic. But here we are in the midst of replanning, you know, how our county should develop in the future. And so I'm wondering, how is this interfacing with the comp plan?
Well, it is not currently, but plan integration is something that we're talking a lot about right now with respect to the NHMP. And I think that's work that we could do across all of our planning efforts. I think we've done a really good job of standing up individual plans and required plans. And I think maybe the next step is to better understand as staff in a community how those plans talk to each other and interface with one another, because that's certainly how and why they were developed.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that saddens me about our state level land use laws is that they're really quite old by now, and they don't include such issues as this. And, you know, if we have distinct and aggressive wetlands management laws, why don't we have public facilities and other land use laws that relate to the tsunami zone? And I think it's very relevant to what we're doing right now in our resiliency plan. So I'd love to see us make sure those things are integrated.
Great. I'll make sure that Gail and I touch base and have a conversation about what that could begin to look like.
Good. Great. Thank you. This was wonderful.
Thank you. Anyone else before we move on to natural hazard mitigation plan? Okay. The next topic is the Clatsop County Multi-Jurisdictional Natural Hazards Mitigation Plan 2020. Quick overview for this presentation. We'll talk about the purpose of an NHMP, the history in our county. The current plan update is the primary focus of this presentation, and then we'll end with some questions. This is a little fuzzy, but I'll call your attention to the infographic to the right here that says, for every $1 invested in hazard mitigation, an average of $6 is saved. That means once an emergency has occurred. So if that isn't enough reason for you, we develop an NHMP to identify the risks and vulnerabilities that face us in local government, and then we prioritize our actions. An NHMP has two core parts that I'll talk about later in the presentation. But the main purpose is to identify our local hazards in order to improve resilience to the hazards. There's another really specific purpose, and that is to make us eligible for 3 specific funding streams provided by FEMA for hazard mitigation. But what I always talk to people about is how having your plan and objectives outlined as succinctly as this is going to help you with any funding stream. It is intended to be a whole community process and input, and to be a strategic approach. In a way, this plan requirement is FEMA's way of vetting projects in advance of getting an application. What it does is it tells them, because of how they require that we convene this committee and update these plans, that we've met as a group, that we've include everyone in the community, and they know that they don't have a project that one person has thought of or that a siloed approach has been applied to. They also know that a cost benefit analysis has occurred. So a little plan history for our county. Our first NHMP was written in 2008 with the assistance of the University of Oregon Partnership for Disaster Resilience. At that time, and as required by the process, we formed a steering committee, which is still one of our remaining core committees with the county. And that plan consisted of city and county addendums, meaning it was the county and city's plans. We came to it together. We had a number of local stakeholders, but at the end of the day, they were the city and county plans. For a number of years, that plan protected a number of entities in the county and made them eligible for grants. But somewhere between 2008 and this last plan, FEMA said, you know, if you have your own elected body, you need to have your own NHMP, and that'll come into play in just a few minutes. Again, whole community process is at the heart of all FEMA planning, but the NHMP in particular. In 2015, we had an update due. It was actually due in 2013. It caught us a little flat-footed and we were behind on some public process. And so we were able to, the other challenge was that we did not have the benefit of the University of Oregon Partnership for Disaster Resilience to assist us. We relied solely on staff support, and so it prolonged the process a little bit. Again, the plan looked a little the same. We updated it. There weren't a lot of new bells and whistles. We didn't develop many new action items, which are the projects identified by the whole community, and we conducted a public survey online. In 2021, we were contacted by DLCD. Well, we were contacted by DLCD back in 2018 because they had some grant money to assist local jurisdictions with developing an NHMP. And they said, would you like for us to help you with your next iteration? And since I'd been primarily responsible for the 2015 NHMP, which I fondly refer to as the Franken Plan because of my editing capabilities, I said, that's great. They said, you know, one of the new priorities for FEMA is to get special districts to the table. So if you're able, we would like to include special districts in your 2021 update, if you're able to get some people to the table. And so we were, we invited everyone and had 10 special districts say yes. Those are fire districts, schools, districts, water, sewer, and the Port of Astoria. The new update has new hazard data, and I think it's the most notable thing about it. Some of you who are here tonight were party to the HAZUS presentation on December 2nd, which is a long-term project of DGOME's to identify the critical infrastructure and potential fatalities and casualties in Clatsop County after a Cascadia event, and that new data was considered in the process of this update. So I'm going to send you a link to this plan update in the next few days or week. And this is just a little roadmap. This is a 400-page plan. It's not light reading, and it can be frustrating trying to find things within it. I'm going to split it basically into two pieces that are consistent with the table of contents. And the first part, the thing I think you'll be maybe most interested in, unless you're Commissioner Webb, who might be most interested in the mitigation strategy, will be the risk assessment, the community profile, which outlines all of Clatsop County, the 10 natural hazards that impact our county that we have identified as a group, and then the community risk profiles, which is where we really get into the meat of the plan. The hazard vulnerability analyses, which are every community's scoring and rating of how a hazard affects their community, and the mitigation action items, which don't look very bolded here, but they are. I think this is really the gold nugget of the plan. These are the projects that our whole community has come together and decided are priority projects to make our community more resilient. And then the last part of this section are plans. This refers to something Commissioner Webb brought up in the last presentation, the integration of our plans. These are tables that show what communities have which plans and invite us to talk as a community about what we could be engaging in together. The mitigation strategy is just that. It's more of a general section that describes how we come about this, what the process is, and some of the specific tools and assets the jurisdictions have at their disposal. We're wrapping up here. This is the project timeline. I won't go over it in great detail. We've carved out a little over 10 days for the city councils, the boards, and special district councils to review before it goes out for public review. That will occur December 26th through January 15th. At the end of that period, the steering committee will meet one final time to make any final changes. While this is happening, OEM will be giving it a look over before we send it to FEMA using something we call a crosswalk tool to make sure we've met all the requirements. And then at the beginning of March, we'll be bringing it to the councils and boards for a final review, not to be confused with final adoption, which occurs after FEMA issues the approval letter. And with that, I have concluded the Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan presentation. Are there any questions or comments?
I don't see any hands, but I just want to really thank you, Tiffany, for all the tremendous work that you put forth on this topic and the people that you work with. It's very much appreciated. Will the commissioners elect be invited in on these next couple of steps at December, what not to be part of?
Tiffany is here.
Get up to speed with that.
Yes. Any piece that you'd like to be, I can send an invitation to the final steering committee meeting if you're interested. I know a couple of you have been to a couple, we've been having them for almost 3 years now, but I'll keep you apprised of everything from this point forward. Commissioner Thompson,
Yes,
did you have a question or a comment?
Go ahead.
Well, thank you. That hazardous material that we saw, I really want to have that come in front of the County Board of Commissioners. As I said at the meeting, what I hope is that it's a two-step process. One, the county commissioners get the information, and then two, the county convenes, or some jurisdiction within the county, say Seaside perhaps, convenes the governing bodies of Clatsop County to take a comprehensive approach to this issue, because I tell you, this is our problem, and it needs to be our collaboratively developed set of solutions that takes everybody into account. And thanks for your good work.
Thank you. Yes. Commissioner Webb?
Yes, first, thank you. Thank you. I am really kind of sad that the board has not been more involved in the work that you've been doing for the last couple of years. I don't remember at any commission meeting receiving any kind of a status update, etc. And this kind of a program is very data rich. It's very information rich, and I'm kind of sorry that this board wasn't at least more informed about what was going on. And so I hope that doesn't happen as you move on quickly in the near future.
It's not too late. It's not too late.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you, Tiffany. I appreciate all this effort, and it's always good to see you in front of the board. And we have about 5 minutes before our main meeting, so let's take a brief break, and we will be back at 6 p.m. Thank you so much, and thank you again, Tiffany. Yeah. There we go. Do we have everyone back? Okay. We're going to start at 6 o'clock. I want to welcome everyone to the December 9th, 2020 Clatsop County Board of Commissioners regular meeting. It is 6 o'clock. The Board of Commissioners, as the governing body of Clatsop County, all county service districts for which this body so acts, and as the Clatsop County Local Contract Review Board, is now meeting in regular session. Clerk of the board, may we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Nebaker,
Here.
Commissioner Webb,
Here.
Commissioner Cleela,
Here.
Commissioner Thompson,
Here.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Here. Okay, so we have all 5 commissioners here with us tonight. May I hear a thank you, clerk of the board. May I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
Commissioner Thompson moves to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Commissioner Nebaker. Second.
Thompson seconds.
Thank you. All those in favor of the board's the agenda approval, do I hear any nays? Okay, hearing no nays, it is unanimous that the agenda has been approved. And we now have a presentation, and I'm going to let our county manager, Don Boone, handle this. Thank you so much.
Chair Sullivan, members of the board, good evening. We are honored to recognize Commissioner Nebaker and Commissioner Sullivan for their distinguished service to Clatsop County, as this is the last scheduled board meeting in this amazing year that has been 2020. And when I say amazing, there's asterisks around that. This is the opportunity for the board, staff, and the public to share our appreciation for your leadership and contributions over the years. The role of a public official is honorable, and it's complex, and it's not always a warm fuzzy, meaning it's not easy work. It can be thankless and tireless, but at the end of the day, it's also very rewarding. It's in the rewards that really sustain us to do the jobs that we do. And obviously we don't do it by ourselves. We're supported by our families and our friends and all of our peers and our collaborators. In Clatsop County, the Board of Commissioners are policymakers, but they are really so much more. You are the leaders of a complex organization serving the diverse needs of an ever-evolving community. You are simultaneously visionaries, ambassadors, counselors, coaches, and teammates. The current Board of Commissioners are special, in my humble opinion, least of which is taking a huge risk and hiring me as the county manager some 16 months ago. You will always be my first board here at Clatsop County. You'll always be remembered for being the board that navigated us through the initial months of what was once unthinkable, which was a pandemic. You were the board that worked through a strategic planning process through the pandemic and accomplished many, many, many other important topics. In all of my years of public service, and I've worked for more than 30 elected officials over my career, you stand out for your leadership and support, and I truly feel blessed for being part of this organization and this community. For my part, I would really describe you as engaging, passionate, forthright, easy with humor, models a public service ethic, exacting, and I say that in a good way, honest, and very willing to share your vision, thoughts, and concerns. You keep us moving in the right direction, support the good work of the organization, and in doing so, you show compassion and grace. This, by the way, from my seat, is worth its weight in gold. Tonight, the Board of Commissioners, staff, and the public want to recognize you for your service and your contributions. We're going to approach this one commissioner at a time, beginning with Commissioner Nebaker. And so the program will include presentations by the sheriff leading off, and then by myself, and then by Monica Steele. Then we'll open it up to the other board members to say, to share their thoughts, and then we'll have the Commissioner Nebaker in this case end with her final thoughts. As I wish we were together in the Boynton, this virtual presentation will hopefully reflect the deep respect and fondness that we have for the both of you. So I'm going to start with Commissioner Nebaker, just with some just broad demographics for those who may not know, but Commissioner Nebaker has served 2 terms between 2013 and 2020. She was the chair of the board in 2019 and vice chair in 2015, 17, 18, and 20. She played a pivotal role in the development of the Arts Council and served on the Arts Council between 2014, which was its inception, through 2020. She also served during her entire term as a board member on the Human Services Advisory Council, Public Safety Coordinating Council, and for the last couple of years also on the CREST. And as I say that, that's a fraction of what Commissioner Nebaker's meant to Clatsop County, to the organization, and to the community. But before I say anything more about Commissioner Nebaker, I'm going to hand it off to Sheriff Phillips, and then I will follow up after the sheriff.
All right, thanks, Don. Commissioner Nebaker, I've had the pleasure of working with you in various capacities since 2016 when I began attending the Public Safety Coordinating Council meetings and working alongside you and others on the sequential intercept mapping project. One of the things that really always stood out to me about you is the genuineness and sincerity in your concern for the well-being and welfare of the people of Clatsop County. As I said the other day, you've always conducted yourself with the grace and poise of a confident, respected leader. On behalf of the grateful citizens and staff of Clatsop County, it is my pleasure to present to you this flag flown at the Clatsop County Courthouse as a token of our appreciation of your dedication to Clatsop County through your service as District 2 Commissioner from 2013 through 2020. And I wish I could like push that through the screen to you, but we'll make sure you get this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff. And so just to follow up on what the sheriff said, so Chair Nebaker at the time was the chair when I was hired as the county manager. And I remember in my first meeting, which I had only been here for a couple weeks, she had the hardest questions for me in my first meeting. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, what am I in for? And it turns out it's been a great experience. But Commissioner Nebaker, as everybody who knows her, she has an amazing passion and a deep well of concern for those that are most in need in our community. And I think that really is a constant reminder for a lot of us about why we got into this business in the first place. And I want to thank you for that reminder. But I want to present to you, it's a plaque, and it says, Sarah Nebaker, District 2 Commissioner, 2013 to 2020, Chair, 2019, Vice Chair, 2015, 17, 18, and 20 in appreciation for the dedicated and outstanding service provided to the citizens of Clatsop County. And a small token of our appreciation, Commissioner Nebeker.
Thank you.
And finally, we have Monica Steele.
Hi, Commissioner. And so I just want to reiterate a lot of what's already been said. I've gotten the privilege to work with you for the past 8 years in various capacities, and working with you on the HSAC as well as the PSCC has been really delightful. You, as both Dawn and the sheriff has said, your passion for your community and serving those who are underserved is evident in everything that you do. And it's just been a joy and pleasure. You're always extremely poised and professional and compassionate in all that you do. And I've appreciated getting to serve this time with you. And so what we have also done, and again, wish we could pass it through to you, is we've gone around the county to all of the different departments, and we have had cards signed by department staff for you. And so this will be some nice reading material for you while you're sitting at home. So thank you again for everything that you've done.
Thank you, Monica. So I thought we would open it up to the other board members if you'd like to have some final thoughts. Commissioner Cuellar?
Yeah, well, I think I agree with all that's been said. I got the pleasure of sitting next to Commissioner Nebeker all of last year. It was nice to be able to actually sit next to people, and I'll be anxious for that to return. But Commissioner Nebeker has been just an effective advocate for the arts and the promotion of the art community here in Clatsop County. We all know that. And I think you can look at our vibrant art community and the Arts Commission and its accomplishments, and Commissioner Nebeker can really take a great deal of credit for it. But beyond that, Commissioner Nebeker has been an advocate for education and social services in our watersheds. And I still remember my wife and I running into you down at the Dodo Bakery on sushi night. And I really have enjoyed, getting to know you over the last couple of years and getting to know more about your family. And, I really look forward to continuing to work with you, because I know you're going to remain a pivotal figure in the future of the arts here in Clatsop County. So I'm anxious to do that. I've enjoyed serving with you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Webb, would you like to go next?
One of the reasons that I ran for the county commission a couple of years ago was that I was so unsatisfied with the way that the commission was functioning. And I am very proud to have been a part for the last 2 years of a commission that every person, we had our differences, but we treated each other with terrific respect. And I think that that's one of Sarah's wonderful attributes, is that she's a kind and gentle person, but she holds her own when she needs to. And it has just been such a pleasure to serve on this commission under the leadership, of course, of our wonderful new county manager. But I think that we all got along. We all respected each other. And it was a huge change from what had been going on this commission for a number of years. And I think Sarah it was always wonderful to celebrate her commitment to certain things, to humanity and to the arts. And I hope, Sarah, that you won't just retire. I hope you'll hang out with us and continue to be the wonderful advocate and organizer that you have been for the arts community. I'm not going to say I'll miss you, because I'm going to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. I think Commissioner Thompson's hand is up.
Thank you. I'm going to take the risk of being personal. Everybody wants to praise you tonight. You're going to hear again and again what a lovely person you are and how wonderful. Here's what really stands out for me. You lost your soulmate. And by golly, you cared so much about Clatsop County that you held yourself together and redoubled your efforts for this people and this place. I can think of no more challenging thing to happen. And you did beautifully. Well done.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Sullivan.
Commissioner Nebaker, I just really have felt privileged to serve with you, and I love your kindness and your calm demeanor, and I think it's just been a pleasure serving with you, and also I really appreciate getting to know you better, and I know that we will continue to see each other once we're off the commission. And I want to thank you for all the work that you do, in particular, not only just for social services, but for the arts, because I think that's vital to our society as a whole to keep the importance of art up there and to support our artists and support our venues that support the arts. And your work has greatly contributed to that. So thank you very much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. Commissioner Nebaker, would you like to say a few words?
Yes, I would. I'm a little choked up, I have to say. That was quite unexpected and moving, and I really appreciate it. Okay, to compose myself here. I'd like to read something. As my second term on the commission comes to an end, I say thank you to my fellow commissioners, the ones present and the former ones too, from whom I learned so much. Thank you to our excellent county management, the county staff, our justice system, and the outstanding volunteers who provide numerous hours of work on our boards and councils. This experience has been an education, an opportunity to give back to my community, and a privilege to be in this leadership position. The work I've been able to shepherd along with mental health, public safety, health care prevention programs, elementary procedures, economic growth in the arts and culture, and so much more has been a most rewarding experience. I am grateful for the support and the cooperation I have received in each of the areas I have worked in. With respect and hope, I wish the commission going forward to accomplish as many positive improvements as I have seen our county accomplish in these past 8 years. I wish you all good and productive experiences, and especially good health in this time. And a happy holiday and a good new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nebaker. So from Commissioner Nebaker, we'll go and go through the same routine for Commissioner Sullivan. A little bit of background on Commissioner Sullivan real quick. She has been the District 4 Commissioner from 2017. She served as the chair during 2020 and was the vice chair in 2019. She serves on a number of boards and committees, including Forest Trustland, Northwest Senior Disability Services, Ambulance Service Advisory Council, BOPTA, and Recreational Lands Advisory Council. And of course, during COVID, she's been the board chair and has taken on a lot of other roles as being a conduit to the state for a lot of meetings. And she's probably had more interaction with me than she ever wanted to because of the COVID experience. But I appreciate her sense of humor that she still smiles when we meet, so that's a good thing. So thank you for that, Commissioner. But I'm going to hand it off to Sheriff Phillips.
All right. Commissioner Sullivan, through this pandemic, we've had many serious conversations about, everything from beach access to citizen initiatives that were on the ballot in November. And I've always greatly appreciated your approach to working through these challenges. You've always asked good questions, been a good listener, provided good, legitimate counterpoints, but always while being focused on the goal of finding solutions to the problem at hand. I've also really especially enjoyed the more personal conversations that we've had about how we love our families and friends and how that guides us in our leadership roles. I wrote you a note commenting on how I've enjoyed how you run the commission meetings. You've always had a relaxed attitude and a get-her-done approach. And that certainly seems to make them go by faster. So on behalf of the grateful citizens and the staff of Clatsop County, it is my pleasure to present you this flag flown at the Clatsop County Courthouse as a token of our appreciation for your dedication to the citizens of Clatsop County through your service as the District 4 Commissioner from 2017 through 2020.
Thank you, Sheriff. So, Commissioner Sullivan, not everybody probably knows this, but Commissioner Sullivan is personally responsible for my wellness program. Includes regular walks. And so we walk and she asks me a lot of questions and she sets me straight on a lot of issues, and that's always appreciated. As a result, I get my 10,000 steps in pretty readily, which I think that's a positive too. But what I have appreciated is that I've been doing this for 30 years, and this last year is really marked in the challenges we have faced. And it's been a high anxiety time for staff. It's been a high anxiety time for the community. And through it all, and I say this to the whole board, but I say this also to Chair Sullivan, is that your collective leadership and your individual leadership, Chair Sullivan, has made the difference for all of us. And it's your ability to maintain a sense of humor. It's your ability to have conversations where sometimes conversations can be difficult. It's your questions. We staff love questions. It makes us think, and it makes sure we are doing the right work that represents the board's values. And so your questions have been rewarding and they've been very instructive. And I just think that who could have anticipated what the last 10 months were going to look like? I know that when you became board chair, you did not know that there was a pandemic on the horizon. So I thank you for your leadership. I thank you for your friendship. I thank you for your wellness influence. And I look forward to our continued work together as we move forward. So on behalf of citizens of Clatsop County, we have a plaque. It says Kathleen Sullivan, District 4 Commissioner, 2017 to 2020, Chair 2020, Vice Chair 2019, in appreciation for the dedicated and outstanding service provided to the citizens of Clatsop County. Thank you, Commissioner.
So,
Okay.
Go ahead, Monica.
So again, we have for you as well a packet of cards from all the different departments to hand over to you. But I also want to thank you for the last 4 years. You have such a passion to learn about government, and like Dawn was saying about your questions, I always appreciate the number of questions that you ask and how you try to understand them from a variety of different approaches. And I really appreciate the way that you have just a passion for your community. I know that there have been several events through the Lower Columbia Youth Soccer Association, whether it's at the Fort George fundraiser or whether it was coming out to the soccer fields and just showing your support for the community in that way, that I've appreciated all the questions that you ask me, whether it's about work or whether it's about my personal family life. And so thank you for all that you've done.
And what Monica did mention is you have cards too that have been signed by the organization. So I also want to say, if anybody ever has any need for some recommendations for movies or books, Chair Sullivan is there for you. So I think you can call 211 and just ask for her, but I'm not sure. So next we will open it up to the board. Commissioner Cuellar?
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure that when Chair Sullivan stepped into that position this January, she didn't expect this year to turn out exactly how it turned out. I mean, this has been just a crazy time, but she transitioned to a leadership role just admirably, throughout this COVID crisis. I just really appreciated her leadership throughout. I have really gained a lot from her good communication to the board. Of course, her sense of humor is outstanding, and so she keeps things light. But her compassion is the most important thing of all. Chair Sullivan cares deeply. She cares deeply about the environment. She cares deeply about helping the less fortunate among us, and that's why her current role at the Warming Center is just a real boon for that organization. And I know Chair Sullivan, just similar to Commissioner Neberger, she's not going anywhere. I look forward to working with her in the future. Clatsop County has really been fortunate to have Chair Sullivan as a public servant, and it's often very consuming, as it has been this year, and it is often a thankless job, but we're all better for having worked with you, and thank you.
Commissioner Nebeker?
Thank you. I first met Kathleen when I was running for this position 8 years ago. And well, it would have been longer because I was approached and she was part of the group of people that asked me to run. And that was when I first met her. And as I observed her involvement in the community, what I saw was a passionate activist, someone who was intelligent and very committed. And what I have seen since she became elected to the commission is someone who has grown into a fine leader. Her passion sometimes was seen as maybe too exuberant, but she grew into this leader that these married very well. Her exuberance, her passion, and not to mention her humor, which I enjoy so much. She's funny and puts everyone at ease. She's gracious and hospitable to all of the commissioners. Whatever our comments are, pretty much she is right there being grateful for whatever we say. And I've so enjoyed getting to know you, Kathleen, and I look forward to continued friendship.
Thank you, Commissioner Nebeker. Commissioner Thompson?
Thank you. Well, Commissioner Sullivan, harking back to your career as an English teacher, I want to read you a poem tonight, because you can take the teacher out of the classroom, but you can never, indeed. Okay, so this is from Octavia Butler, A Parable of the Talents. Kindness eases change. Love quiets fear. And a sweet and powerful positive obsession blunts pain, diverts rage, and engages each of us in the greatest, the most intense of our chosen struggles. We're from Michigan. We are going to find a struggle. We are going to find a good cause to work on. So carry on, and thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Webb.
I hope I can get through this. Kathleen is someone I admire for so many different reasons, and it has been a real pleasure and a joy to be on this board with her. She's one of the people who encouraged me to run, and she has made it one of the great joys about watching Kathleen on the board has been that when she came on, I don't think she had a lot of confidence about what she knew and didn't know about county government. But as many of you have said, she's never afraid to ask a question, even though she's been chastised for that sometimes. And she's never afraid to learn, and she's never afraid to meet new people and get involved in new issues. And once she asks all those questions and does all those readings and travels to all kinds of places, I'm sorry. She approaches everything in life, I think, with a great deal of passion. If you have ever seen her with her nephews, you can tell that they absolutely adore her, and that her family means a great deal to her, as do her friends. She's become a lovely policy analyst, and most of all, she's really one of the kindest and most dedicated people I know. And she has got a wicked sense of humor, so be careful when you're horsing around with her. Thank you, sweetie.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Sullivan.
Well, I really want to thank everybody for your very kind words. And I've been working on writing something, and it doesn't seem quite adequate. I think that serving as a Clatsop County Commissioner has been one of the highlights of my life. And it's been a privilege. It really has been a privilege serving the residents of our Clatsop County and my district. And I would like to thank my family and my friends for their sound advice and their unconditional love. I could not have done this without them. I would also like to acknowledge my former workplace, the Cannery Pier Hotel and Spa, where I worked full-time until March of this year. And I continue to be thankful for the support I received from Jake, the other owners, and the management, and my fellow commissioners and my fellow employees as I served as a commissioner, because you need to go, and it was great that they allowed me to take the time off work that I needed to do. And I'm grateful that I've served with such a hardworking, dedicated board, this board and the board before. I'm particularly proud of the committees that I've served on and the people that I've gotten to know through them, and that we've carried the messages from Clatsop County out into the community and out into the state, and I think that's important. But I also would like to. I've gotten to know so many people in the county, and I think we're very fortunate. I have a little piece that I've written about government. if we can get through this. We'll see. So I think one of the fascinating parts about serving as a county commissioner is to see up close how vital the role is that our county government plays in all of our lives. As commissioners, we absolutely depend on the good work of the county staff and volunteers. This board thanks our county leadership team, our county staff, our county volunteers, and our fellow elected officials and our community partners. Good governance is collaboration and compromise, along with a lot of hard work on the part of many people. Close your eyes for a moment and think about the ways government seamlessly cares for our communities. Turn on the faucet in your kitchen. How does that water get to your faucet? How do you know it's safe to drink? Take a drive in your car. How are those roads you travel maintained? Building a house? Who checks the safety of your plans, the electrical work, the plumbing? Eating in a restaurant? How do you know the food served is being safely stored and handled? Outbreak of fire? Who do you call? Car crash? Who do you call? Government services are woven throughout our daily lives in ways that allows us to take these services for granted. Nonetheless, services continue because the government workers dedicated to maintaining these services continue to do their best day in and day out. And if you are paying attention or not, all of this in normal times. What happens when the extraordinary happens? Is there anyone paying attention to the most feared events we all want to avoid thinking about? Yes. Our emergency management department, our roads department, our sheriff's office, our county health department, our behavioral health agency, all levels of government don't look away, they go to work. Through education, training, and planning, government builds muscle memory that serves well when disaster strikes, to know what needs to be done to survive and to recover. This year, 2020, will be remembered for the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, catastrophic floods and wildfires and economic fallout and social unrest. How did our county government react? With grace and determination. Our county staff have been working long hours to manage the fierceness of this pandemic of a novel coronavirus. This virus is so new, we are literally learning as we go. Thinking about the times that you were fed up with the restrictions, the difficulties, and the heartaches, so much of the news is so heart-wrenching. You might decide to binge watch your favorite television show. The government employees, by definition of their roles, have to stay involved. They have to stay tuned to the bad news. They have to figure out a pathway to solutions and to recovery. This work continues if anyone is paying attention or not. But we have been paying attention. And this Board of Commissioners want to say thank you to the staff, and thank you on behalf of the commissioners and on behalf of the residents of this county. Work well done. We wish for you your strength, courage, and endurance, and rest when needed, because we need you. Staff, the County Board of Commissioners, thank you for the important work that you do on behalf of all of us. I couldn't have done anything that I've done without the support of all of you, and it has been a privilege to be part of this county organization. And I especially want to thank the department heads and Monica Steele, who was our interim county manager last year. It's been wonderful working with her all this time. I want to thank Don Boone, but I also want to thank Kelly Stiles for her leadership as we were looking for our new county manager and our new county council. Kelly's interaction with the staff and helping the commissioners come together with a consensus. And I can't imagine that we could have lucked out any better than what we did by hiring Don Boone, our county manager, and Joanna Lyons-Antley for our county council. And we have outstanding department heads. I mean, look at the work that Gail Hendrickson is doing on the comprehensive plan update. I mean, I'm going to forget names, so I will stop there. But I can't tell you how proud I am of this organization. It's just been tremendous. So thank you all very, very, very much. So that's all I have. And I want to thank all the public that's here today. You know, we do this work for the public, and I just really appreciate everybody being here, and I will I'll be reaching out to everyone directly that I didn't bring up your name here today. So thanks. Do we want to take just a 2-minute break, and then am I done now? Yeah. Let's take a 2-minute break, and we'll come back for the rest of the meeting. All right. Thank you. Thanks for the tree. I know it's hard to get it squeezed in.
That work?
Yeah.
talking.
Commissioner Sullivan, you are muted, so.
Thank you, County Manager. I appreciate that. So the next thing on the agenda is the proclamation about climate change. And I just wanted to say that I just wanted to apologize that we weren't able to get this proclamation into a work session previously. Don has done such a wonderful job of instituting work sessions for all of us, and I think that's really has helped our process as a board. And while I have always considered climate change to be of utmost importance, we just did not get it on the agenda beforehand. And so I want to apologize to the other commissioners that we did not get that into a work session. And unfortunately, it is the final meeting, so it is on the agenda now. And what I would like to do in order to honor the fact that we didn't really get a chance to have this in a work session, I would like to ask for a motion to read the proclamation. Commissioner Aquila, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to test everybody's good humor, I think. I know there's a lot of interest and urgency to do this proclamation this evening. And as Chair Sullivan just mentioned, we didn't have a work session on this. We haven't had a lot of discussion. I would really like to see that happen. We also have 2 new commissioners that are going to be joining the commission, and I'd like to have them part of that discussion as well. We completed almost year-long strategic plan process, and we had I thought we agreed to a more kind of balanced and nuanced discussion of environmental and climate change policy. And establishing this work group was to consider both environmental and economic interests. So that's what I'd like to see. I guess I would like to make a motion to table it till we could have a work session and do that.
Commissioner Thompson seconds.
I appreciate that, Commissioner Aquila. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Thompson seconds Commissioner Aquila's motion.
Okay, so the motion on the table is to table this proclamation. It's been moved and seconded. Do we have discussion? Commissioner Thompson, go ahead.
Madam Chair, thank you. Is there anything that is more important than the content of this proclamation? Well, I'd say equal to that is the process by which it was developed and brought forth, because that plays a determining role in how it will be carried out. I am a devoted, staunch environmentalist. I want this carried out. And for that reason, I seconded Commissioner Aquila's motion, because we have to include everybody in this, everybody in our community. We have to give everybody fair warning and a chance to be heard. We don't have that. Because we don't have that, I trust in the goodness of our incoming commissioners. I trust in the rightness of this cause. I trust that going forward, the new board will seek a balance: environment, economy, health. We're in the midst of a pandemic. Our economy is in tatters, and we're determined to save the planet. But we have to do all 3 of it, or we will accomplish none of it. And for that reason, I support Commissioner Aquila's motion. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Nebeker.
I appreciate what the 2 commissioners have said, and I understand where they're coming from, but I also think that there is a time to take a stand and to show leadership and to not wait for everyone to agree or to achieve a consensus. While that would be ideal, I feel for my part as a commissioner at this time, even though I recognize that there will be a new commissioner, it is my duty to act on proclamations and issues that I see as important now. So it is a proclamation. It is not, it's not an ordinance. And I think while things may develop from this, and I certainly do hope that the new makeup of the future commission, that they will take this seriously. We have been shown to be leaders in this county and step out of our comfort zone in times past. And I think this is also one of those times. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nebaker. Any other comments? Commissioner Webb?
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons I support this is that unlike many of the other issues that we face, which have to be dealt with immediately, issues around climate change are very, very easy to put off. In fact, many communities throughout the world have just increasingly put it off. But more and more and more, we're not doing that anymore. We are one of the few counties in Oregon. I think I counted something like there are 22 cities and counties in Oregon who have already passed such a resolution, and they're starting to deal with it. Our county is, unlike most counties in Oregon, we're kind of at the cusp of climate change. We have, ocean acidification issues. We have increased winter storm issues. We have sea level rise. We've got to start acting on things like this sooner rather than later. And it's a huge, broad field of interest. And as we heard from Tiffany Brown earlier, we are finally at the point in Oregon where we have a lot more information about our natural resources than we ever have before. And we're finally at the point, going through the comp plan, for instance, where constantly people are saying, well, but we don't really know about that. Well, the fact of the matter is, we know a whole lot about a lot of things. The state of Oregon has it has a commission on climate change. A number of the natural resource departments have ongoing staff work being done on climate change. DLCD, DGAMI, just all of the natural resources folks do. Perhaps with the exception of the forestry folks, but so I think we've got to get on it, and there's nothing, I can't imagine anyone opposing a proposal like this, because I think as recent comments to the board before tonight's meeting have articulated, there are a lot of people in our community who are very concerned about this issue, and there's nothing really political about it. I mean, what is to, I think that our first whereas was, climate change is real. climate change shouldn't be a political issue. And there's no reason why taking action on climate change threatens any of our other priorities. I have a deep history in economic development, and I think that climate change offers some of the best opportunities in our country right now for what Americans do best, which is we're innovators. We're good thinkers and we're innovators. And I wish I could have shared with you all the time that I've spent at OSU in the past couple of years, learning about the fabulous work that they're doing in engineering and in biology and in that are addressing these issues. We have shellfish farms in our county which are failing right now because of ocean acidification. We have a very robust fishing community, which, if you look at the statistics, is in decline in terms of total employment and total resource. So I just think this is something that can't wait. As I say, I don't know where the opposition to this would come from. I really don't. And so I would love to see us go forward.
Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Nebaker?
I'm sorry, this just came to mind and I have to say it, even though it's anecdotal and it could snow tomorrow and maybe people would say how ridiculous, but I'm an avid gardener. I have been gardening in this area for 40 years. And every year I notice the plants that I normally have to put inside, I don't. Less and less. This year, for the very first time ever, I have roses blooming. I have plants blooming that don't ever bloom until January. Everything has been changing in these last few years in my little microclimate. As for the economy, this is quite personal, I know, but I invest a little bit of money each week in certain sectors. And I've been doing this for a few years now. The sector that has grown enormously as far as a dividend or in growth is the clean and green sector. It's outperformed everything else. So I just wanted to add that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nebaker. I want to acknowledge that Commissioner Aquila and Commissioner Thompson, I don't believe that they denied climate change. I think that their concern with this tonight was the process of getting it onto the agenda. And I understand that, and I ask for your indulgence, and I do hope that the next board will consider all of these things and work with all of this. I think for me, this is my last meeting, and I regret that we didn't have a proclamation like this 4 years ago. I regret that we haven't had a proclamation like this every single year, that we don't have some kind of a standard part of on our agenda to talk about upcoming issues that concern the entire community. And we have a great deal of people in this community that have concerns about this and want to see a public declaration from the highest governing body of the county to say, hey, we know that climate change is real. We are also concerned, and we will do what we can going forward to address this issue in the policy and the work that we do. And for me, that's what this proclamation is just to acknowledge what has needed to be acknowledged for some time now. And I regret not having brought this forward earlier. But I would ask your indulgence to consider it tonight. But so first we will vote on the motion that's on the table, which I'm sorry, the motion that's there on tabling this proclamation. Clerk of the board, can you call a roll on that motion to table this proclamation?
Commissioner Nebeker?
No.
Commissioner Quila?
Aye.
Commissioner Webb?
No.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
No. Okay, so the motion to table this proclamation has failed, 3-2. May I hear another motion to have the reading of this proclamation? Commissioner Nebeker.
Chair Sullivan, I move that the board move ahead with reading this proclamation.
Okay, do I have a second? Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you. We have a motion on the table to read this proclamation tonight, and it's been seconded. Any further discussion? Commissioner Quila.
Yeah, I will plan to abstain from the vote just because I think it warrants a discussion in a work session, but I'm not going to vote no, I'll abstain.
Thank you, Commissioner Quila. Anyone else? Commissioner Thompson.
I'll also be voting to abstain. Again, we got to do this. I agree with this. This is a bad process. When we get a letter to the editor on November 21st that calls on this to happen, when there is a 3-vote majority of, quote, progressives, and I don't, as a commissioner, even hear about this until the board packets are already in the mail, that is a sadly deficient process. I have to abstain on the basis of process. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And that is your right, and thank you for letting us know. I do know for myself personally, someone who's been following this issue for decades. It's not as if this information information is out there. It's out there on a daily basis, and acknowledging it, I don't think is diminished by not having a work session. We can talk about process, and we have talked about process, but I think that the importance of this issue and the need for it to be stated publicly, I think overrides that. And I do invite the next board to bring this to a work session and to discuss it and to continue to discuss it, because it was, you know, it's Commissioner Webb earlier said about forestry issues. Well, I sat in on those Board of Forestry meetings, and the Board of Forestry has brought to the forefront the importance of dealing with climate change and forest management policy. That's been ongoing for over a year. But this is a topic that can be discussed and will be discussed. And again, I do invite the new board to dwell on this topic and to really work with it and to bring it forward in all the policies going forward. It is a reality, and it's just simply a fact of what it is that we are living with in our world right now. So so can we have a Commissioner Nebeker? Commissioner Nebeker.
Yeah, I know I've said this in past discussions after a motion is made through the years. It's an old saying, for want of the perfect, the good is lost. So, yeah, it may not be perfect.
Oh, and I agree. It you know, if we had had more time and hadn't been dealing with all that we were dealing with, it would have gotten a work session, but it escaped us this time. Clerk of the board, can you read the, we're going to do the vote on the motion that's on the board about allowing this proclamation to be read.
Commissioner Nebeker,
Aye.
Commissioner Quila,
Abstain.
Commissioner Webb,
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson,
I abstain.
Commissioner Sullivan,
Aye. Okay, so the motion to read the proclamation on climate change has passed 3-2. I appreciate everyone's input, and I will now read the proclamation. The Board of Clatsop County Commissioners for Clatsop County, Oregon, in the matter to develop a climate change partnership in Clatsop County. Resolution in order. Whereas there is a consensus among the world's leading scientists that climate change caused by human emission of greenhouse gases is among the most significant problems facing the world today. Whereas documented impacts of climate change include, but are not limited to, increased occurrence of extreme weather events such as drought and flooding, adverse impacts on plants and wildlife, and threats to food and water supplies. Whereas counties, in collaboration with cities and special districts, have a unique role to play in reducing greenhouse gas emissions and preparing for the impacts of climate change through their regional jurisdiction over policy areas such as land use planning, fresh water, wastewater, solid waste management, and outdoor recreation. Whereas state, regional, county, and local governments are taking actions to address climate change, and that these efforts are led by elected officials and county partners. Whereas many counties throughout the nation are reducing known contributors to climate change through programs that provide economic and quality of life benefits and foster more economic development and job creation through energy conservation and new technologies. Whereas Oregon has studied the effects of climate change for over 2 decades, providing credible scientific information that predicts the severe effects anticipated for the North Coast. Such impacts include, but are not limited to, higher sea levels, shoreline erosion, greater wave heights, greater tidal inundation, degradation, I'm not saying that right, of near shore water quality, hypoxia, higher pH levels, changes in forest ecology, and increased coastal drought conditions. Whereas a regional framework for climate adaptation in Clatsop and Tillamook counties was produced in 2014 by the Oregon Coastal Management Program and the Sea Grant Program after a series of public meetings. That document offers constructive pathways to possible remedies and mitigating effects of climate change on the North Coast. And whereas Oregon's natural resource agencies and the DLCD have active programs addressing climate change, they can provide valuable assistance to Clatsop County as they are doing now in the update of our comprehensive plan. Therefore, the Clatsop County Board of Commissioners makes the following commitment: to develop a collaborative climate action partnership among cities, special districts, businesses, nonprofit service providers, and members of our community with the following mandate: to improve our knowledge of the natural resource base in Clatsop County, such as water conditions, wildlife habitat conditions, etc. To educate the public about local climate change issues. To encourage citizens to take personal responsibility for lessening the county's carbon footprint. And finally, to recommend innovative and proven actions to be taken by the partnership to prepare for and ameliorate the negative consequences of climate change. Dated this 9th day of December, 2020, Board of Commissioners for Clatsop County, Oregon. Thank you all for your support and for your insight and your input on this. And again, I hope that going forward, we'll be able to address some of these issues. So thank you, everyone. Next on our list is business from the public. Individuals may present comments to the board via email, commissioners@clatsopcounty.or.us by 3 p.m. on the day of the meeting to submit for the record. And we also have people that have called in. Clerk of the board, do we have any public comments tonight?
Yes,
Um,
the first, oh, go ahead.
So I will let, if you have registered to speak, please wait until your name is called, then give your name and address for the record. You have 2 minutes to speak. So County Clerk, I will let you go with that.
Roger Doorband.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I also wanted to offer some thanks to Commissioners Nebaker and Sullivan for their hard work and years of service on the commission. Commissioner Nebaker, for those of us who are in the arts, you have been a steadfast spokesperson, making sure that an awareness of the importance of the arts to our county is never downplayed or forgotten. I hope that other commissioners will carry that torch forward in your absence. Thank you, Commissioner Nebaker. Commissioner Sullivan, you have been stable and functioning well through the very troubled waters of this past year. Your leadership will be missed, particularly by those of us who uphold forest conservation, preservation of wildlife habitat, and clean water over more clear cuts. Like you, we recognize the need for systemic change in the way that Oregon manages its forests. Thank you, Commissioner Sullivan. Regarding the climate change resolution, climate scientists around the world really stress the urgency of the situation, and consequently, I feel like this resolution couldn't have come a day too early. I know from conversations that I had with Kathleen Sullivan over the course of the summer that this is something that she had been thinking about for quite some time. And for my part, I did write that letter on November 21st. And my concern is that with two candidates or two commissioners coming in who are supported by Timber Unity, which is on record as opposing any discussion of climate change, they seem to be anyway. I was worried that maybe this wouldn't happen soon enough to get passed and it would get moved into the next year and postponed and talked about. I don't think we have that kind of time, personally, and that seems to be the consensus of all the climate scientists as well. I think this document should be kind of a starting point for future discussions and actions, and I'm sure it'll be taken up, rigorously in the future. In addition to joining in solidarity with many counties throughout the country in a collective effort to mitigate climate change, the climate resolution offers a great opportunity for Clatsop to join Multnomah, Lane, Lincoln County, and cities such as Bend, Eugene, Portland, and Milwaukee in helping shape state policy on climate by providing data on which mitigation measures work and are supported by the citizens. I think that's very important.
Thank you, Mr. Doorband, for your comments. Thank you. The next speaker, Nadia Gardner.
Hi, I'm Nadia Gardner. I live at 80285 Woodland Heights Road in Arch Cape in Southwest Clatsop County. I wanted to start by, like everyone else, thanking all of the commissioners, not just Nebaker and Sullivan, but the entire crew there. I know from experience that you're volunteers, and I know the work and choices are hard, and I also know that it's very much often underappreciated. And I wanted to let you know that I really appreciate all of you, and thank you personally. Of course, a special appreciation for Commissioners Nebaker and Sullivan, who finished this service in 2020. Our county is better because of both of you. I wanted to speak a little bit on the topic of the climate partnership and the proclamation. And I speak today as a coastal resident, a small woodlot owner, a scientist, and also a parent to a young child who will grow up in a world quite different than ours. I want to thank Commissioners Webb, Nebaker, and Sullivan for voting in support of the proclamation, because really climate action can't wait. There are so many reasons to be moving forward on the local, state, and federal level and international levels right now. And that's because climate change is not in the future. It is now, and it's only going to get worse. And if you have to talk about economic development as somehow being opposed to climate action, you really haven't been paying attention, especially in our county. Our fisheries and our forestry industry are already suffering because of climate change. Announced this week, our crab fishery is not opening for Christmas yet again, north of Cape Falcon. And why is that? It's because of domoic acid, and also our razor clamming is also closed for the same reason. Now, domoic acid is something that happens, but these days are unprecedented, the amount of domoic acid that's showing up. And the crab industry actually knows this. The Oregon Crab Commission some years back has actually started lawsuits against the oil industry because of these delays, and it's costing them a lot of money. If you look at the history of these marine heat waves and algal blooms that are resulting in these closures, it's only getting worse. Actually, in the last 40 years, the biggest heat waves that have happened were in 2014, 2019, and 2020. So this is a real deal, and as mentioned, ocean acidification also. Thank you so much.
Next speaker, Cheryl Johnson.
On behalf of my family and residents all across Clatsop County, we want to add our deep appreciation for the work that Commissioner Nebaker and Commissioner Sullivan have done over these many years. Kathleen Sullivan is my county commissioner because I live in the East County. Oh, I was supposed to say my address, 44183 Peterson Lane, Astoria, sorry. But the reality is that all of the commissioners work on behalf of all of us. So all of these commissioners belong to all of us. It is easy to sit at home and complain, and there are lots of folks who are willing to say, oh, those guys should be doing this and those guys should not be doing that. But it's a whole different ballgame to say, I will run for office and I will serve my community. And these two women stepped up and did that for a long period of time. We appreciate your leadership, we appreciate your dedication, and we appreciate the time that you have given. I think that regular citizens don't have a clue how many hours elected officials put in. They are reading massive amounts of documents to prepare for their meetings. They're going to committee meetings in addition to the public ones, and they are reaching out to and meeting with their constituents. We deeply appreciate your time and your energy and your talent that you have given to make life good for all of us in Clatsop County. If we were in the Guy Boynton building, this would be the part where there would be a standing ovation. So thank you to both of you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Tally Spiller.
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Tally Spiller. I live at 41948 Meyer Lane in Kathleen Sullivan's district. So first I'll start off by just saying thank you so much, both Kathleen and Sarah, so much for your service. I know that it's a volunteer opportunity and takes a lot of time, and so I'm really grateful for all that you've put into our county. And I also wanted to speak on the climate change proclamation. As you can see, I have a 3-year-old daughter who I'm really terrified for, to be honest. Based on everything that we know from the science, we need to make really transformational changes to preserve the way of life that most of us grew up with. And I don't see it happening, you know, like I see a lot of resistance, and, you know, we all endured the 2 weeks of unbreathable air, and I still don't see the change on the scale that we need to turn things around. And so if this is a small step in that direction, I want, you know, everyone here to think about the young people in your life. When my daughter is my age, it'll be the year 2054. And I think about what will the world be like then? Will she have to endure famine, drought, hunger, what will the seas be like? Will we have forest fires that insurance doesn't cover anymore? There's just a lot, when you allow yourself to really imagine the consequences of not changing to the scale that we need to change to, get the carbon back to a sustainable level. She didn't do this to our world. We all got to grow up in a world that operated on fossil fuels, and now it's only going to get more and more expensive and difficult to change year after year that we don't do anything. That's the unique problem.
Spiller. Susan Banyas. Oh, your microphone's not on. There you go.
Am I unmuted now? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners Sullivan and Nebaker, for your service. I'll miss you. We'll all miss you. And all commissioners, thank you for your service. The proposal here before us is essential, and thank you, Speller Talley, for saying what you said and projecting us into that future time. Here's what I wrote. I propose you not only adopt the climate change resolution before you, but that you use it as a catalyst to build muscular action to combat climate change through innovation, collaboration, new economic and educational models. That's addressed at the end of the resolution. And here's my questions. Can the county and city leaders come together to create a robust vision with educators, business leaders, tribal leaders, designers, artists, journalists, research scientists, foresters, loggers, parents, and students, and bring all of these players to the table? Can that vision happen? Can the county and city leaders with state and federal leaders imagine how to fund the transformation of this immediately into a strong eco-education and design concept? President-elect Joe Biden has promised us that he will be making federal money available for a New Deal type economic jobs creation program. Can this county get in line for some of those funds through a strong visioning process and action plan? But the push has to come from the county. But beyond politics and political parties, we, the people in this county, we want to thrive, we want to create, we want a sustainable future for our children, for our great-grandchildren, and so on. Can the city forest, the forest that's owned by this city of Astoria, be a training ground for a sustainable forestry management program? Can design and engineering be taught from the elementary school on so that students know how to build, grow food, create energy grids? These are land use issues.
For your comments.
And these are climate change issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Andy Davis.
Thanks, Teresa. I'm Andy Davis. I'm at 376 3rd Street in Astoria. Commissioners, staff, members of the public, I submit public comment tonight to give my gratitude to our outgoing commissioners, Nebaker and Sullivan. I've had the pleasure of working with the two of you, both on your budget committee and on a variety of policy issues. The greatest compliment that I can pay to you is that I wish there were more people like you in all of our communities. People who care deeply about their neighbors and who are willing to keep chipping away at the endless work of trying to make our community the best place it can be. It's a hard job, in part because not everyone will agree on how to get there, but you both navigate those difficult discussions with grace and humility. I want to especially thank you for the roles you played in a variety of policy fronts here in the county. Your leadership that both of you showed on the support for a voters pamphlet for special district elections, your votes on the Lynn County lawsuit, the due diligence needed on the jail bond proposal, the creation of a scenic waterway along the Nehalem, and the significant job of keeping the county steady in a tremendously difficult 2020 with COVID-19. Tonight's climate change partnership proclamation seems like a perfect way to wrap your tenures up and leave us with a direction and a way forward that models the way I'll remember your tenure. Through partnership, education, communication, and innovation, we can continue to make Clatsop County a wonderful place to live. Thank you both.
Thank you, Andy. That's the end of the public comment, Commissioner Sullivan.
Thank you, Clerk of the Board. I appreciate that. Is there a motion to, and I want to thank everyone that came tonight to speak. That is a challenging thing to put yourself out there, and I really appreciate your comments and your time tonight. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Okay, so now is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Commissioner Thompson moves to adopt the consent calendar, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that Commissioner Nebaker? I didn't. Yes. Okay. Commissioner Nebaker has seconded it. Anyone opposed to the consent calendar? Okay. Hearing no opposition. All those in favor, nod your head. I see everybody nodding their head, so it is unanimous that the consent calendar has been approved. We will now go into the Commissioners' liaison reports. Who would like to start this evening? Commissioner Thompson, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have actually, as a County Board of Commissioners, been putting into effect substantive acts to address climate change and the responsible empowerment of the Arch Cape community in the Arch Cape Forest. So it was my pleasure to see Commissioner Sullivan and Commissioner Webb and Haley, an Astorian reporter on the joint meeting of the, let me get this right, Arch Cape Falcon Cove Beach Community Club and the Arch Cape Water District to discuss that forestry project. Better yet, we now have a volunteer, a rare volunteer, right, Hannah Mather, and she's putting the link up on the website so other people can listen to that meeting. It was really a model presentation, and for anyone who thinks we aren't actively engaged already in addressing climate change and how communities can act to address those issues, take a look, please, at that meeting. It was swell. So thanks to my colleagues, those who agreed, those who disagreed, we all moved forward together to support what I hope is a model for other communities around Clatsop County to be able to be responsibly empowered to protect their watersheds. So that's the first thing. The second thing is yesterday was wildfire presentation by the Emergency Corps, the Emergency Volunteer Corps of Nehalem Bay. There were a variety of speakers there, and I reached out to a lot of people. You know, they're doing good work there.
You know, you're fucking done.
I believe that
we
Matson McDonald. Teresa, could you mute Pamela McDonald? Thank you.
Yes, it looks like she is muted, but okay.
That was her voice. So
I apologize for that, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you for taking action. So they're working on that clear and present danger from wildfire at the wildland urban interface. 67% of all the wildfires in Oregon, they said, occur within a mile of the wildland urban interface. That's us, friends and neighbors. So looking about what we can do in Clatsop County, our emergency manager said that she's working on a wildfire plan. We're working with our partners across county lines and across the state. So that's going to be an important issue. I don't know if we have a public information way of getting a link to that meeting as well, but it was recorded, so we could do that as well. And I think fire and water, I think that's a good place to stop. Thank you. That's my report.
Commissioner, thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Who would like to go next? Commissioner Quila, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Sullivan. Who's manning the beep button around here? Anyway, I just was going to say, I'm glad that Commissioner Thompson had invited me to the Artscape. I appreciate that that's going to be posted, and I look forward to looking at it. The only thing I had to report on, we had a fair board meeting last night, and like most fairs across the state, they're weighing whether or not to plan for a 2021 fair, and their guidance really has been that the governor has said that probably the later summer fairs that are going to be, in August time period, might go forward. So they're planning accordingly. They're going to plan for a 2021 fair. So we'll just see how everything plays out with the vaccine and how things progress. But they're going to plan accordingly. That's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Quila. Who is next? Commissioner Webb?
Okay. I've obviously had a pretty terrific 2 weeks because I've got some good news for this board. First of all, the Owens Adair property, which has been owned by Clatsop County, the Clatsop County Housing Authority for many years, has now been bought officially, title turned over to NOAA. So we can now dissolve the Clatsop County Housing Authority. Yay. I've been working on that for 2 years, and I'm really, really pleased that it's going to happen. The good news is that, thank you, Joanna, for all the hard work you've been doing with the difficult situation at NOAA. And we are sort of one by one ticking off all the undone things from the last few years, and that's one of them. So that's just, I don't mean to be so excited, but 2 years is a long time to work on something. Today, Commissioner Thompson and I sat in on what usually is the National Extension. Can you remember, Leanne, I can't remember what it's called, but it's kind of their annual meeting for extension people.
Oregon State University's Cooperative Extension Report, I think. There's a fancier title, you're right. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah. There were 7 presentations. And what it is, it's a time for extension services from all over the state, to kind of weigh in and brag about some of the projects they've been doing. And the first presentation was given by Amanda Gladys about the work that she and other Sea Grant people have been doing. And they did I think I mentioned this, that they did a survey of the fishing industry that I think I would like to try to get copies of to everybody, because it was very interesting about the kind of the effects of COVID on the fishing industry. So I'll see if I can make sure everybody gets a copy of that. The last session was our Lindsay Davis presenting about the efforts that they have been doing, and they were really very multifaceted. I mean, she gave kind of a speech on leadership in extension, and for those of us who went to land grant colleges, you Michigan State folks, you beavers. I went to Penn State for my graduate work, so I'm a big land grant person. But it was so cool to see these presentations from all over the state about the work that Extension is doing. And I was so impressed about how creative they had been, because just like all the rest of us, the pandemic has just been ferocious for them. And some of them talked about how they had basically kept their 4-H programs going virtually, which I think is pretty cool. And it was just really great. I mean, it was wonderful to listen to all the energy. One of them, Commissioner Thompson, has been doing some great work. Oh, you were there, you heard it about childcare. Yeah. I mean, it's just it was really inspiring. Honestly, it really was. The other thing, the other work, a 3-hour meeting with the Lower Columbia Solutions Group, which is talk about intergovernmental, federal agencies, well, primarily the Corps of Engineers, many state agencies, CREST, and a couple of local agencies, talking about the project that they've been working on for about the past, really, almost 10 years, about dredging the mouth of the Columbia. And it's pretty fascinating science, because I certainly have always understood dredging, but I had never understood where those spoils go. And the fact that they use the dredging materials to basically to fight climate change, to augment the sand that gets degraded along our coastline. So anyway, it was fascinating. And it was 3 hours long, though. I think I should get a gold star for that. I think that's it. Things at the Housing Authority, incidentally, are going really well. I mean, thank you.
That's really good to hear. Thank you so much, Commissioner Wells.
I could talk about my grandchildren. Do you want me to do that? Okay.
I would love to hear about that another time. Thank you so much. Commissioner Nebaker.
That is really good news about the Housing Authority. I never would have imagined it would have taken all these years, many years. Good work. So I attended the Human Services Advisory Council. Jill Quackenbush gave a presentation on health promotion update. She talked about the health pyramid, which I didn't really understand. That was informative for me. The top of the pyramid is counseling and education, and that's always what I think is the most important, but unfortunately, it is usually the last to be funded. Continuum of care is a model from the National Institute of Medicine: promotion, prevention, treatment, maintenance, and unfortunately, our county does not receive funding for promotion and prevention. I think working toward some source of funding from the state or other places for this would save money, lives, and better serve our community in the long run. However, our county has been proactive with policies in tobacco, alcohol, and drug prevention. Very important. And they've done a great job with this, as well as overdose and problem gambling prevention. Some funding comes through OHP and local stakeholders, but it would be wonderful to have more, and I'd say vital. And who knows what's going to look like coming out of this time with people under so much stress and use of alcohol and other substances increasing. The Northwest Parenting Hub with the Tri-Counties, Columbia, Tillamook, and Clatsop will be working with regional stakeholder and community partners. My Future, My Choice is a human sexuality program promoting healthy choices that the Department of Education provides curriculum for and training for 6th grade. I know that sounds, for those of us who went through public school many years ago, 6th grade seems awfully young, but this is the times that we live in. It's a great program if the schools choose to use it. There's an 8th grade program proposed as well, and Napa School is looking at finalizing this is separate. Napa School is looking at finalizing a school-based health program. Presently only Napa, but hopefully it will go to the good for Napa. That's great. And hopefully the other school districts will also adopt it. Working with My Future, My Choice, Jewel is the only school that has a school-based health center at the moment. Okay, notification of grant applications to nonprofit outside agencies will be going out through the county website and social media. The deadline for applications is January 29th. I attended the Public Safety Coordinating Council. Judge Bo Peterson will be the new judge appointed to the PSCC. Judge Matthias will be stepping down from the PSCC. She has done a terrific job as chair. This is a hard-working council of professionals. There's a requirement that a commissioner be appointed as a liaison to the council, where they are also a member of the council and they vote. Whoever is the next commissioner liaison on the PSCC will find a great group there. The Justice Reinvestment Initiative will be considered in the upcoming legislative session, and letters of support will be very important. This is a 2-year grant concluding in June 2021. The governor has proposed $30 million. That's a 10% cut, and the legislature could change this amount, but this could be significant. Clatsop County has used this money very well with its pre-trial release program. It's had success, and I hope that the funding will continue. The governor has proposed the parole and probation will be cut 11% due to passage of Measure 110. This last year, $30,000 was spent on housing 23 individuals who came out of prison, who were housed at Restoration House and motels and hotels. The governor may commute the last 6 months of prison terms in order to close 2 prisons. Housing must be found and secured first. Jury trials at the Seaside Convention Center or the fairgrounds may begin in December when there may be jury trials. I believe there's going to be. The harbor is starting a prevention program. It's called Start Talking About Violence in Social Media. I think I got that right. The harbor is starting a prevention program. No, Start Talking About Violence in Social Media and Dating is proposed or ongoing at Napa High School. Very good. And breaking ground in April for the construction of the jail. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nevaker. Okay, so I think before I forget, I'd like to send a special thank you out to our clerk of the board, Teresa Durst. She has been a tremendous help to me through my 4 years, and I just want to say how much I enjoy getting to know her and her friendly presence in the office. And by golly, she sits through every single one of these board meetings, being friendly, positive, effective, and I just can't say enough. So thank you, Teresa, very much. And I know the rest of the commissioners are also agreeing with me on that. And I'm also very happy with Hannah Mather, the work that she's been doing on the website. It's just tremendous, and I know that we'll have a brand new look of the website next year, no doubt. But this past year, the work that the staff has done to include the public into our process in a more meaningful way, I think is very, very much appreciated. And I know that will continue to improve as we go along. I also have been thinking about the commissioners that will be remaining and going forward to the next board. And I think Clatsop County is very fortunate to have 3 commissioners with such deep government experience. I mean, decades of involvement with government on so many levels, and I witnessed it myself, the care and attention to detail, and I just think that bodes well, and that they will bring the new county commissioner-elects along and go forward. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, and I want to thank all of the commissioners for your companionship and your help as we shared this board of commissioners together. And we didn't always agree, but you know what? I think it's okay to not always agree. I mean, goodness sakes, who would want to live someplace where everybody had the same opinion? Oh my gosh, I wouldn't like that at all. So I really appreciate all of your help throughout my tenure. It's going to be tough. I do think that I know that when I first took this position that I really kept in mind that I was stepping into a role, and the attention and whatnot that I got, it was because of the role that I was in, that I was standing in the place of a commissioner that represented the citizens of my district. And when I step out of this role, Courtney Bangs, the new commissioner, will step in and take on this mantle of representing the public. And it's a sacred honor, and I really am so grateful for the privilege to have been able to do that. So thank you. In terms of my county commission, we'll have the last meeting of the Northwest Senior Disability Services for myself. I recommend that committee to whoever else would like to be on that. It's represents 5 counties. They do a lot of terrific work for seniors and folks with less able-bodied citizens, and they just do a terrific job. Since COVID, there's been another group that started up. It's called the Northwest Oregon Regional Outdoor Recreational Committee, which I have sat on, and that's going to continue because it's been so popular. It's the different state parks and the national parks, along with county commissioners, and they talk about how is it all going, because during the COVID, it was when it first started, we had unprecedented use of our public parks, and at the same time we had a reduction in the public parks budgets. So how do we manage that? And that's something that we did this year, and I imagine that will continue into next year. So I recommend that committee. And there's other committees that things that we've been on, but I want to put a special thanks out to Dr. McNichol and Dr. Ellen Hines, not only for their managing this COVID, but for their help, particularly Dr. Hines, her help with the Story Warming Center. They worked closely with the staff there so that we could open that up and be safe for our guests and for the community. And I really, really appreciate that. And I want to thank Tracy Kervenko of taking us through this very excitable election year. I just think she did us all proud, and I'm sure there's many, many more people. And I don't, please don't take offense by me not mentioning your name. But the final word that I want to say is housing has been something that has been mentioned in almost every meeting I have been in for 4 years. Somehow or other, housing comes into it. And it is a national problem. we have, nationally, we have not kept up with the demand for affordable housing in this country. And we are in the thick of responding to the need now. We are in a tough position, but I know that there are things in the works going forward. And I just want to continue to encourage the board going forward. And I know they will, because it's part of our strategic plan. It's part of our priority going forward. But I just want to support you on your endeavors in increasing housing. And that includes special needs housing. Some of these social problems that we have will be better able to be solved with stable residence for the individuals. So we have a long meeting yet to go ahead. So anyways, just thank you very much. I appreciate it, and much love to all of you. Okay, County Manager.
Chair Sullivan, members of the board, I'll be brief this evening. I just wanted to share, and all of you know, but I will be out of the office dealing with a serious family medical issue. And so I'll be back in next week because I have to leave town. I will be isolating myself when I get back. So I'll be working, but I'll be working remotely for a period of time, but I'll be accessible. So feel free to reach out. And then I'll be back in the office right after Christmas physically. But in the meantime, reach out to me. Of course, Monica is here, and Teresa and all staff, Joanna. So we will still be doing all the work of the county as always. And that's all that I have. And I just want to thank you for your support as I go through this. So thank you.
Thank you, County Manager. We wish you and your family the very best. So next on the docket is Ordinance 2003. It's on page 138 of your agenda. This is the continuation of a hearing in Ordinance 20-03, combining the Land and Water Development and Use Ordinance and Clatsop County Standards document. Is there any additional information from staff?
No, there is not. And this is Gail Hendrickson, Clatsop County Community Development Director.
Thank you, Gail. I appreciate that. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed on to speak?
No, there are not.
Okay. Is there any, all right, I will close the public hearing and open the discussion. Do any of the commissioners have any comments they'd like to make on this? Okay, so I will be looking for a motion to adopt Ordinance 20-03, combining the Land and Water Development and Use Ordinance and Clatsop County Standards document, and conduct the second reading by title only. That's the motion, correct, Joanna? Okay, anyone would like to make that motion?
Commissioner Thompson will make the motion, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any second?
Second.
Commissioner Quila, thank you. So that's been seconded. Any discussion? Okay, I just would like to thank Gail Hendrickson and her staff for the tremendous amount of work that was involved in doing this, and very, very much appreciated. So clerk of the board, could we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Quila?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Webb?
Aye.
Commissioner Nebaker?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye. Okay, may we have the second reading by title only? Gail, would you be able to read that for us?
Yes, so Ordinance 20-03, an ordinance repealing the Land and Water Development and Use Ordinance number 80-14 and the Clatsop County Standards document, and replacing those documents with the Land and Water Development and Use Code, also abbreviated as LAWDUC, LAWDUC.
Okay, thank you very much. So we have heard from the public that wanted to, we didn't have anybody speak today, but we've been opening it up to the public. We've heard the commissioners, we voted on it. So Joanna, this is now, is this now complete? County Council?
Yes, ma'am. It is. Now you have a new ordinance and a new law duck, I think is what we're calling it.
Okay, thank you very much. Good work and congratulations. We will now close that. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. We will now close that public hearing and we will go into, I thought we had 2 public hearings today. Is that
We
the only
do.
public hearing we have?
Yes, we have the
Oh,
one.
portions of streets. Okay. We will now open the public hearing for vacation of portions of streets in Highland Park, page 142 of your agenda. May we have the staff report, please?
Yeah, good evening, Chair Sullivan, members of the board. I'm lucky enough to get a chance to just speak on behalf of county staff and public works and take a second and thank you, Chair Sullivan and Commissioner Nebaker, for always being great leaders. It's been my genuine pleasure and privilege to work for you, and to the rest of the board also. You've really earned my pride and respect, so thank you. With that, I'll move into, we're conducting a public hearing to approve the road vacation and authorize the chair to sign the resolution in order vacating portions of various streets in the town plat of Highland Park. To correct and clarify the first sentence on the informational summary, on August 13th, we received the petition to vacate the plat. And then on September 9th, the Board of Commissioners accepted a petition and ordered the Roadmaster's report, which you accepted and approved on October 14th, and set tonight's public hearing. In the meantime, an additional 25-foot turnaround on the end of Labisky Lane was recorded. The dedication for a little extra bit on the end of Labisky, and then also an easement was recorded for access for Evelyn Lothman's, one of the petitioner's property out on the end of Labisky, to kind of wrap everything up. We've notified all the abutting property owners as required by law. Just to kind of to repeat what I talked about briefly on September 9th, this is very, very similar to the last few vacations we've done. It's a paper plat out in the countryside. There's no roads on it. They're not being used. And so it's just to clean those out of there to make better use of the land. I wanted to kind of repeat also what I said on September 9th and just thank Evelyn Lothman. She really was the only person who originally approached us. She had just kind of a small piece of property on the end. And we were able to take your guys' suggestion, the board's suggestion, to see if we can get more more streets and do more while we're doing one of these. It's much more efficient to do more of them. And so she really took it upon herself to go approach all of her neighbors. And she was very patient working with me through this really complicated process to get another 6 or 7 people. And so it's really going to help us going forward. We don't have to keep doing these in a few years. So yeah, so with that, this is the final step in the process. And after the public hearing, the board will make a decision to approve or deny the vacation. The fiscal impact, the petitioners have paid the fee, and so all the expenses are covered. So the option to consider is to conduct the public hearing, approve the road vacation, and authorize the chair to sign the order vacating portions of streets in the plat of Highland Park, or to number 2 is to continue the public hearing, future meeting. And number 3 is to deny the road vacation, authorized chair to sign an order denying it. We obviously recommend option 1.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vance. So I will open the public hearing. Clerk of the board, are there any members of the public signed up to speak?
No, there are not.
Okay, thank you. So I will now close the public hearing and open the discussion among the commissioners. Any discussion of the commissioners? Commissioner Thompson?
Well, thank you, Madam Chair. So wouldn't it be a dandy idea if the board sent this good neighbor a letter of appreciation to say thank you on our behalf and for staff for being such a good neighbor? I mean, we have a contest and a cake and everything like that, but our own personal letter would be just a nice thing to do, I think.
I think that's a wonderful suggestion, Commissioner Thompson. Thank you. I think we can make that happen. Any other discussions? Okay. Do we hear, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the resolution of chair vacating portions of streets in the town plat of Highland Park and authorize the chair to sign. Anyone like to make that motion?
I can move to approve the resolution in order vacating portions of the street in the town plat of Highland Park and authorize the board chair to sign the resolution in order.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Quayla. And who seconded that? That Commissioner Thompson? Okay. Any discussion? Okay, clerk of the board, may we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Nebaker?
Aye.
Commissioner Webb?
You're muted, Commissioner Webb. If you say aye, can you raise your hand? Because she's not hear us at all.
She may have lost us. Commissioner Quayla?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye. Commissioner Webb, can you hear us? Can I go up or down? Does she not know? What should we do here? Joanna? I think it looks like Commissioner Webb is going to call us. Should we go 4-0 here? Has Commissioner Nebaker voted on it yet?
Yes, she did.
I think it is fine to go forward, Chair Sullivan, and hopefully Commissioner Webb will be able to rejoin us.
Okay, thank you. So the motion passes to approve the resolution and order vacating portions of the streets in the town plat of Highland Park and authorize the chair to sign. Thank you very much. So we will now move on to the business agenda. And number 18 is transfer the property to Camp Kwanalong Board Incorporated, and this is on page 153 of your agenda. And who is going to give us the information on that?
I will be doing that. This is Serpa from Assessment and Taxation Office. And I just want to start by saying good evening, Commissioner Sullivan and the rest of the Chair Sullivan and the rest of the commissioners. And thank you for your dedication to Clatsop County. I am bringing you an item to consider a transfer of the county tax foreclosed property to Camp Kwanalong Board, Inc. with a reversionary clause. In 2004, we entered into a 99-year lease with Camp Kwanalong for approximately 180 acres off of Rich Road in Warrenton that provides for youth activities. And we have a long-standing relationship with Camp Kwanalong. It all started in 1936 when Judge Guy Boynton sought by an order to seek funds to construct a Girl Scout camp and a log cabin and other buildings near Long Lake in Warrenton. The proposed camp was on properties that were tax foreclosed earlier in the 1930s and served as an experimental dune stabilization site for the Soil Conservation Service and Civilian Conservation Corps. And many different varieties of native and non-native trees and shrubs were planted as part of this historic effort. And today, those planting sites comprise an arboretum and a forest of pines from all over the world. I have had the pleasure of visiting the site a few times, and I just love seeing all the different plants that are there. And there is folklore that in the 1930s, Clatsop County had scouting activities for boys, but lacked them for girls, and they had to travel as far as Salem to attend summertime camps. And so Judge Boynton decided to improve the county's recreational areas for the purposes of Girl Scouts. And the Kiwanis Club of Astoria would furnish all the materials with the help of federal government grants to defray the cost involved. And the camp was constructed in 1936. And thus came Camp Quanalong, named for Long Lake and the Kiwanis. The original log cabin still stands today and is aptly called Boynton Lodge. From 1936 to 1975, Clatsop County leased the Camp Quanalong property to the Girl Scouts. But in 1978, after a few years of vacancy, the campsite was in disrepair, and the county agreed to lease the camp to an independent board with a board of directors that would operate and maintain the facility as a nonprofit organization called Camp Quanalong Board, Inc. And Clatsop County has had lease agreements with them ever since that time. And lease properties require a lot of time to oversee. There are costs involved, managing the leases, approval of any repairs and improvements, and use of the property by other entities all need to go in front of the board. We require certificates of insurance, annual reports of activities, property tax exemption applications, and fire patrol reimbursements. Since we have this long lease agreement and the oversight it requires, staff is actually proposing to deed the property to Camp Quanalong Board, Inc. Pursuant to ORS 271.330 with a reversionary clause that if not used by the organization for their specific use purpose, the property will then revert back to Clatsop County. And Camp Quanalong will pay the cost of the recording, which is $92. So I am asking your board this evening to approve the transfer of the property to Camp Quanalong Board, Inc. And if you choose not to, then we will continue this current lease agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Serpa. And I just want to say before we discuss that how much I've appreciated your reports to this board, and it's really been amazing to watch you and Suzanne and your staff, and knowing how much you care about the properties and the people that are connected with those properties. It's really been an education for me, and I appreciate that. And I also have to say, this Camp Quanalong, I guess, can I make the motion? Is the chair allowed to make the motion? Is that poor form? I guess I won't. I won't. But I just say that Camp Quanalong was it just is such an important thing. So I will hear from a motion on this. I guess the first thing I have to ask, anybody have any questions for Serpa?
I did.
I have questions for Serpa. Okay, Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. So I didn't know Judge Boynton was a feminist. I mean, this is awesome. I don't know if he liked that title, but that's what it sounded like. Serpa, is this really a way that this community institution is going to be well cared for? Because my recollection is that it's been hard to
to keep up the maintenance on this. And I'm hoping that what you're proposing, because it seems like you always want to do good, will result in better upkeep and just a more nimble organization. Is that the intention?
Absolutely. And I believe that them being in ownership also, I think, makes it look better when they're seeking grants to improve their properties and to maintain them. And because of the reversionary clause too, I think that they really want to keep it going and keep it in good order.
And if I could, Chair Sullivan, I'd just like to second that. I think that this actually positions the camp to be more competitive on grant applications. So.
Okay, any other questions for Sirpa? Okay, I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution in order transferring property to Camp Quanalong Board Incorporated for $0 and authorize the chair to sign. Would like to make that motion?
Chair Sullivan.
Nevica?
Thank you. I move that the board adopt the resolution in order approving the transfer of the property to the Camp Quanalong Board, Inc. for $0 and authorize the chair to sign the deed.
Thompson seconds.
Well, that was a toss-up. Thank you, Commissioner Thompson, and thank you, Commissioner Quayla, for also raising your hand on that.
I was just going to say that I attended outdoor school in 4th grade at Camp Quanalong, so I have a very strong connection to Camp Quanalong.
My children attended Camp Quanalong too. Not me, but my children did.
Your children did? Yeah, I helped rebuild the Pioneer Camp, the Pioneer structure out there when I first got involved with the Ford Family Foundation. And I have a Camp Quanalong T-shirt that when I wear it, almost every time I wear it, I get this big smile from somebody that they're reliving their fond memories of that camp. So it's a wonderful asset for our community, for our county. Any other comments or questions? Okay, clerk of the board, can you do the roll call, please?
Commissioner Quayla?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Webb?
Aye.
Commissioner Nebaker?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye. Okay, unanimously, it passes to approve the resolution in order transferring property to Camp Quanalong Board, Inc. for $0 and to authorize the chair to sign. Moving on to number 19, Tourism Promotion Funds Distribution Agreement. This is on page 163 of your agenda. And we have the staff report, please.
Sure. On September 9th, staff came before you during a work session to talk about the distribution of the transient room taxes that we collect that are to be used for tourism promotion. And at that time, you all agreed that having the Oregon's North Coast Marketing Coalition do the work on our behalf would be a good idea after we identified the needs within the departments for tourism promotion. And so what staff has in your packet is the proposed contract, and you'll see that it says Lower Columbia Tourism Committee, and that's because from a bookkeeping perspective, that's how the funds are passed through. But the work will be done by Oregon's North Coast Marketing Coalition. And so the agreement states that they will distribute the monies will be distributed in accordance with the statute, and that the contractor will agree to conduct strategic planning and research necessary to stimulate tourism development on shoulder season within Clatsop County, advertise, publicize, and or distribute information for the purpose of attracting and welcoming tourists throughout Clatsop County, marketing special events and festivals designed to attract tourists countywide, and to provide an annual plan to the Board of County Commissioners on how these funds will be spent, in addition to the outcomes of how they were spent in the previous year. And so in the current fiscal year, there is approximately $94,000 that was budgeted. As mentioned, some of these funds will be retained by the county in order to identify some of the promotional needs within our own departments. And the contract states that we would be passing through up to $90,000 for the North Coast Marketing Coalition to do this work. This would be an annual contract because we do adjust that amount each year depending on the tourism tax that's collected. And so are there any questions for staff?
Commissioner Thompson, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Well, okay, so I'm looking on page 166, 9B. Other improved real property that has a useful life of 10 or more years and has a substantial purpose of supporting tourism or accommodating tourist activities. So I am looking for money for restrooms and trash receptacles. It seems to me we can advertise and advertise, but really a more effective way of getting people to want to come here is to have restrooms and trash collection facilities, because then everybody would be happier. And the way I look at that piece of the is this an OAR or a statute? Statute, yeah, ORS. Okay, so it seems to me that's a reasonable interpretation, but that may be wishful thinking on my part.
So from a real property perspective, a restroom would be a possibility for the construction of the restroom, not for the maintenance of it, but a trash receptacle wouldn't be considered real property.
I would ask for a design of the, never mind, but you catch my drift. We just have such a community need. I don't know how the marketing folks feel about that. But the idea that we would actually deal with the impact of tourism in a way that's positive for tourists and positive for locals strikes me as a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Webb?
Yeah, this is a very big issue statewide. And after dealing with ACVA and Travel Oregon, et cetera, there is great hope. And I did talk to somebody at AOC about this, that in the next session, they're going to take a crack at lowering that 70-30%. Because everybody's complaining about this. And so apparently the folks I've spoken to along the coast are saying that they have interpreted it pretty loosely. And when they have an existing facility, if it really is a capital thing, yes, it's clearly allowed. One of our great needs here is, yes, for restrooms, which are a capital facility, but also signage, where all of our parks lack adequate signage. So this is one of those, this is just so tough. The other part about our negotiations with the North Coast folks, and I hope you all understand that the North Coast entity is all of our DMOs. It's Astoria Warrenton Chamber, the City of Seaside, and the Cannon Beach Chamber. They're a group, and they work. I've been working with them for a couple of years now. They work really well together. David Reed is kind of but help me out, Mark. He's like the what's the right word I'm looking for? The guru of the group.
The grand wizard.
Okay. And so, I mean, I'm very satisfied that they work well together as a group, and so they're worth dealing with. One of the things that I pushed hard for was for us to do more marketing to rural resources in our county. And I've had long talks with Mac about this. I'm having a little trouble getting him. He wants money if we want to do that. Of course, he wants money to do it. But so I think that this also, remember, was part of our conversation in the budget about giving grants, giving little tiny grants to people who come in and ask us for a special project. And remember, we decided that with things like the harbor, with human services grants, we wanted to be able to give people a steadier capacity building capability. That's really what we were looking for here. So I'm hoping that with further conversations, we can talk about how else Monica, where did the conversation come from about the emphasis on the shoulder season and yada yada? Where did that verbiage come from?
That is, and David is actually on the meeting as well, but it's been my understanding that has kind of been the focus the last several years, because during the months of May, June, July, August, and even September, especially when we had the cruise ships coming into town, we had a large influx of people then. And so to promote more people to come during the summertime just created a larger problem. And so the focus being on the shoulder seasons was then you're helping out those restaurant and hotel and all that.
We all understand what shoulder seasons are. But I think that this also was an attempt to say, let's do, we don't have a tourism office. The county is not. Our neighbors to the south in Tillamook have a whole big campaign. They have a fabulous director, and they've just hired another staff person. This isn't something we do in this county. So if we're going to support it, which I think we should, because I think it's part of our economic development responsibilities, then we need it not just to be a project here, a project there. We need some capacity building. And so that's what this was supposed to be all about.
We have a committee through the chamber that concerns themselves with tourism issues, do we not? I mean, isn't that part of the work of the chamber?
Yes, but it's specific with our local chamber. It is specific to Oregon and to Astoria and Warrenton.
Yeah.
Okay. See, so this is an effort to say we're, especially marketing money, which it's just as easy to market for Cannon Beach as it is for Astoria. I mean, it really isn't in terms of the way marketing is done now. It's come to the North Coast.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I have one question. Part of our strategy of dealing with COVID has been to over the past year is getting the message out there also to wear masks, or, hey, why don't you recreate closer to home? Is that something that would be considered tourism, or would that be part of emergency?
Absolutely. And in fact, ACVA has a program going right now where they've hired a PR company to do some messaging around those issues.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Is that your understanding also, Monica?
Yes. And I attend the Astoria Warrenton Chamber meetings, and I believe it's Regina who gives regular updates on behalf of Oregon's North Coast, and that is an area of focus that they've been working on too, and just kind of the come to the coast and be kind mantra.
Okay, excellent.
It's also intended to beef up those marketing things, to talk more about the rural areas of the county and what kinds of recreation people can do. In
right, very good. Commissioner Aquila?
Yeah, the Lower Columbia Tourism Council has been very effective, and they've been very forward thinking about this. They want sustainable tourism. This is absolutely the mechanism in which we should be partnering with, and I'm glad that we're doing this agreement. Do you want a motion?
Yes, please.
I move the board approve the proposed agreement and authorize the county manager to sign the Lower Columbia Tourism Committee for work to be done by the Oregon's North Coast Consortium in an amount up to $90,000 to promote tourism within Clatsop County, and authorize the county manager to sign any contract amendments.
Second,
I second.
Commissioner Webb. Commissioner Webb, you second it. Thank you, folks.
Yes.
So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I think I've just seen the cutest little boy ever.
I was gonna say, put that picture back on.
Okay, that's a needed distraction. Hello there. Hi, sweetheart. Okay, so let's have the any comments? If not, let's have the clerk of the board read the roll call, please. Getting near bedtime.
Commissioner Webb?
Aye.
Commissioner Nebaker?
Aye.
Commissioner Aquila?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye. Okay, thank you. So the motion passes to approve the proposed agreement with the Lower Columbia Tourism Committee for work to be done in the Oregon North Coast Consortium to the amount of up to $90,000 to promote tourism within Clatsop County, and to authorize the county manager to sign any contract amendments. Moving on to number 20, we have this one, and then we also have 21, the CARES funding authorization. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Kevin Leahy, who has been waiting on this call for that, and I appreciate that. So let's go to the Citizen Advisory Committee appointments. This is page 171 on your agenda, and who will give us the staff report?
Okay, that will be me, Gail Hendrickson, Community Development Director. We sent out advertisements in September to try and bring in some new members to our citizen advisory committees. And we have found that since pandemic started and we've moved to a virtual platform, that we've lost attendance in some of our committees, particularly the Lewis and Clark Committee and the LC Jewell Seaside Rural Community Committee. So as of October 16th, which was the deadline to submit the applications, we received 6 applications. Susanna Gladwin and Herb Olsted have applied for the LC Jewell Seaside Rural Citizen Advisory Committee, and Tiffany Hall and Pat O'Grady have applied for the Lewis and Clark Olney-Woluski Committee. You'll also see on page 182 of your agenda packet that there is an email from Donna Bing, who is currently representing the Chinook Indian Nation on the Clatsop Plains Citizen Advisory Committee. And he has stated in his email that the Chinook Cultural Committee has stated that it would be appropriate for both he and his wife, Jodia Bing, to also be involved in each of these committees as well. So we brought this item to the board at a work session at your last meeting on November 4th to verify that you wanted to move forward at this time, which was a consensus. And then also staff made a commitment to go back out in January after the holidays to do another call for applicants and see if we can find some more willing volunteers as well. So for tonight, we are recommending that the board chair appoint Donna Bing, Jodia Bing, Susanna Gladwin, and Herb Olstedt to the LC Jewell Seaside Rural Citizen Advisory Committee, and also appoint Donna Bing, Jodia Bing, Tiffany Hall, and Pat O'Grady to the Lewis and Clark Olney-Woluski Citizen Advisory Committee. That concludes my report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any commissioners have questions for Gail? Okay, hearing none, I will, I'm looking to entertain a motion to appoint, should I read it or should we have the person do it? To to appoint Donna Bing, Jody Abing, Susanna Gladwin, and Herb Olsted to the Elsie Jewell Seaside Rural Citizen Advisory Committee, and appoint Donna Bing, Jody Abing, Tiffany Hall, and Pat O'Grady to the Lewis and Clark Only Woluski Citizen Advisory Committee. Do we have anyone that would like to make that motion?
So moved.
Thank
Second.
you. Anyone to second? Second? Okay, we have a motion made and it's seconded. Any comments? Okay, thank you. Clerk of the board, can you read the roll call, please?
Commissioner Thompson,
Aye.
Commissioner Webb,
Aye.
Commissioner Quila,
Aye.
Commissioner Nebeker,
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan.
Aye. Okay, so it passes unanimously. We will be appointing Donna Bing, Jody Abing, Susanna Gladwin, and Herb Olsted to the Elsie Jewell Seaside Rural Citizen Advisory Committee, and appoint Don Abing, Jody Abing, Tiffany Hall, and Pat O'Grady to the Lewis and Clark Only Woluski Citizen Advisory Committee. Thank you very much. We are now moving on to number 21, CARES funding authorization. This is on page 191 of your packet. And may we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Chair. So we, as many people are aware, the state issued $55 million in business support grant funds to be distributed coming through the counties. And we have been working, or we haven't been working, but we have previously provided Cedar with a $50,000 grant. And they have been working diligently throughout the county to try and support our businesses in a quick and efficient manner to make sure that they're getting the resources that they need during this economic downturn for them. And so we are asking that the board allow us to pass the $852,864 that we'll be receiving from the state through to Cedar, so that way they can distribute these funds to the eligible businesses within Clatsop County. Earlier this afternoon, Kevin did provide to all of you the kind of the grant program and what it will look like in regards to the application process, who's eligible, which is also in your agenda packet. But then he also highlighted some of the eligible grant amounts, and in that they will be the regular amount that would be getting distributed to all businesses would be $2,000 for owner-operated businesses with no employees, $4,000 with 1 to 5 employees, $6,000 with 6 to 10 employees, and $8,000 with 11 to 40 employees. Because one of the requirements is that this does have to have 40 or fewer employees. For the businesses that have recently been further impacted by the freeze, they're offering double the amount. So it would essentially be $4,000, $8,000, $12,000, and $16,000 to those businesses. And those businesses would be food and drink establishments, gyms and fitness organizations, indoor recreational venues, museums, venues that host or facilitate outdoor events, zoos, gardens, aquariums, outdoor entertainment venues, and indoor pools, sports facilities, and athletic venues. So what we would be doing is we're asking the board to authorize the county manager to sign the grant agreement with the state, and then also to sign the contract agreement with Cedar. Any questions?
Commissioner Webb, thank you.
Yeah, I'm really glad to see your face, Kevin. God love you. You've been here for like 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
You get, I think
hey,
you
you've
deserve
been
a grant.
that, so thank you.
No, I have a question that I'm wondering about. Especially, you know, my district kind of is Commercial Street in Astoria. And I've been talking to a lot of the merchants there. are you all offering, when someone says to me, well, I'm really struggling and I don't know how much I should have in reserve. What I think they need is a small business assistance person. So do you all have the capacity to sit down with some of these people and sit and counsel them about maybe what they need to do with their grants, or do you see what I mean? Or is it all too restrictive?
No, Commissioner Webb, that's really from our small business development center. That's what we do. We met with over 254 businesses during COVID times here. And as you know, and everyone knows, that's free and confidential advising. So we encourage that actually on the notification of this through my email list going out tomorrow morning pending your all approval. We do have at the bottom talking about the SBDC, and then we provide that advising to them. So we encourage that. We have the capacity. We're ready to go. We have a great team, as you're aware. So yes, absolutely.
Okay, that's really good to hear. That really is. Thank you. And also, Kevin, you guys are doing a great job online. You really do. You have a
great team with Jessica Newhall and with Leah Olson and Maya Freeman. I might go on and on, but thank you. They work really hard. We work hard on that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That's a perfect answer.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Webb. Any other commissioners, any other comments or questions? All right, I want to thank you, Kevin Leahy, for all the hard work that you and your team have been doing on this. It's just been absolutely essential for our businesses, and we appreciate that. And I appreciate you being here for this meeting tonight. So
well, thank you, Chair Sullivan. I also want to thank you and Commissioner Nebeker for work side by side with you as I do with the other three commissioners, and it's a great partnership. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, is any other questions or comments? Okay, Clerk of the Board, can you? Oh no, I'm sorry. I'd like to entertain. Someone entertain it. Give me a motion.
Commissioner Thompson will move it. Heck yeah. I move that the board approve the state CARES grant agreement, the recommended CARES funding distribution, and the corresponding budget and appropriation adjustments as required by ORS 294.338, Section 2, as presented to the board, and authorize the county manager to sign the state grant funding and contractual agreement with Cedar and any amendments.
Second.
Everybody's
seconded square. So Commissioner Nebeker and Commissioner Webb, take your pick on that one. Any other comments? Okay, thank you so much. Clerk of the Board, may we have the roll call, please?
Commissioner Nebeker?
Aye.
Commissioner Webb?
Aye.
Commissioner Quila?
Aye.
Commissioner Thompson?
Aye.
Commissioner Sullivan?
Aye. Okay, so it passes unanimously to approve the state CARES grant agreement, the recommended CARES funding distribution, and the corresponding budget and appropriation adjustments as required by ORS 294.338, Section 2, as presented to the board, and authorize the county manager to sign the state grant funding and contractual agreement with Cedar and any amendments. Thank you, everyone. Good work.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you very much.
Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
This will be to our businesses before the end of December.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, and take care of yourself. It's a long, hard road, as you know. So take care of yourself so you can take care of the rest of us. Any other anything for the good of the order? All right. Well, thank you very much. You stay safe. Thank you for everything, and I appreciate it. And Commissioner Nebeker, do you have anything else for the good of the order?
Everybody stay safe and keep on keeping on. It's going to be a while still. Take care of yourselves be good role models. I know you will be. There's still people who are not behaving themselves responsibly. We can be good role models. Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I appreciate you. I hope I run into you. I hope I see you here and there. And I will be thinking of you, and I will be singing your praises for all the good work that the county does. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll say
Thanks to,
ditto.
thanks to both of you.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everybody. I know you'll do a good job next year, so thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye now. Meeting is adjourned.